Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The 2021 Legislative Delegation meeting for Manatee County is hereby called to order. We'll start with the roll call. I'll first note that unfortunately Senator Jim Boyd can't be with us today. We're thinking about him and wish he were here and hope he's doing well. I'll start with a roll call. Representative Rayner.
Present.
Representative Robinson.
Here.
And I am here, so we'll get started, and I'll ask Representative Rayner to lead us in an invocation.
All right.
No, nice.
Oh, we rise for this. Oh, like the Church of God in Christ. All right. Dear gracious God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for gathering together. We thank you that we are able to have the ability of our use of our limbs. We ask that you would bless this meeting. We ask that you would be present here in this meeting. We ask that your peace would be here. We ask that people would feel empowered to speak their truth and speak their truth to power. We ask that we would have open hearts and listening ears. And we pray that we would be able to conduct the business of Manatee County and conduct the business of the state of Florida in a way that is pleasing to you. In your name, amen.
Amen.
And Representative Robinson, can you lead us in the pledge?
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody joining us again this year. It's good to be back together. And as usual, we have a full agenda. So, we've got our time that we'll be asking everybody to keep to. If you finish under time, that's appreciated. And if you need more time, just let us know. I really appreciate Representative Rayner's words and the invocation, and it reminds me that, the First Amendment is the First Amendment for a reason, and we appreciate everybody's voices and their concerns, whether they're in support of or in opposition to something that this delegation will be considering today or in this upcoming session. I'll just remind everybody that regardless of whether you're in support of or in opposition to something before us, to keep your remarks and your behavior civil, and we'll do our best to do the same and set a good example for you. If there are any people or any one person that's disruptive, I'll certainly bring that to your attention and ask you to tone it back down, and if you do not, then I'll ask you to leave the chambers. I don't anticipate that's going to be an issue today. Let me just start off by asking with Representative Vice Chair Robinson if he has any opening comments for this morning.
Well, first of all, thank you, Mr. Chair, and your great team on our agenda and get everything together today. We actually are entering our final committee week next week in Tallahassee after Thanksgiving. So we're well into the process, and then session starts in early January. So it's very important for me to hear what the priorities of Manatee County are. We have a jam-packed agenda, so I look forward to hearing what your concerns are, what your priorities are, so we as a delegation can hopefully come together. And I think we have, if not one of, but the strongest delegation in the state, because we come together on important issues, especially appropriations issues that are important for our area. So I look forward to hearing from you all today, and thank you for getting everything together, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Rayner, any comments?
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And this is actually going to be my last delegation meeting, but it's been a pleasure to serve the county of Manatee in this capacity. We'll see what the future holds, but I am excited for this next session. Hopefully we can get some good things done for the people of Manatee and make sure that folks feel like they are being heard and being seen, and that we're doing the work that folks elected us to do, because that's what we're here to do, to serve. And so it is a great honor to serve and serve with these two as well, and Senator Boyd. And even though we do sit across the aisle from each other, I think we have figured out a way to find common ground on the things that we can, and that's what's important as well. So look forward to hearing from folks today.
Thank you very much for those comments. We will miss you in the delegation, Representative Rayner. She didn't say it, but I will. She is running for Congress this year, so she's got a lot on her plate. She's been a great member of the Manatee Delegation. It's been a pleasure working with you on tough issues locally, a great supporter for us on Piney Point and a variety of other issues that we had to tackle. So with that, let's go ahead and begin our presentations. We're going to start off, slight amendment from what you see before you. It's not the North River Recreation District, but it is North River. And our first presenter is Lindsay Whalen.
Hello, thank you for having me today. I'm here on behalf of the North River Ranch Improvement Stewardship District. And I'm from the law firm of Cutac Rock LLP in Tallahassee, Florida. We are here requesting legislation amending the district's boundaries by approximately 11 acres. As you'll recall, the district was established by legislation in 2020. It's about 2,000 acres in total. We're just trying to correct a scrivener's error. This land was not intended to originally be included within the property, so the landowner is supportive of the boundary amendment, as is Manatee County. So we would respectfully request a favorable recommendation for legislation amending the district's boundaries.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. We have 4 local bills before us, so we'll listen to all these bills, and then at a later time, we'll vote as a delegation. Thank you for that presentation. The next local bill is Special District Proposal.
Morning, Chair Gregory. Chair Gregory, Rep. Robinson, Rep. Rayner, Gary Hunter, here on behalf of the North Lake Stewardship District. I guess you've seen the proposal. The acreage is 25,680 acres in sort of central eastern Manatee County. The point of the district is to, just like the district that you just heard and Lakewood Ranch District, is to create a stewardship district for the development of homes and commercial facilities within the property boundaries. Because of the size of the district, it makes sense to do a stewardship district rather than CDDs. I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have regarding the district. It's set up almost identically, if not identically, other than the acreage varies obviously to Lakewood and the district that you just heard testify to. So I'm again happy to answer any questions, but otherwise appreciate your consideration and approval of the district. The county, by the way, just for sake of your knowledge, the county has already approved the district. And so, frankly, all we're waiting upon is the legislative delegation to approve, and then ultimately the legislature to approve the district. Any questions you have, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you. Any questions?
No.
All right. Thank you very much. Next up, Mr. Ramba for Cedar Hammock Fire District, and then followed by Trailer Estates District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dave Rambo on behalf of both the Cedar Hammock Fire Control District and the Trailer Estates Fire Control District. Representative Rayner, good to see you. Representative Robinson. This past November 3rd, I believe it was, we had an election in the Trailer Estates Fire Control District to dissolve the district. The district was created in 1963 to serve the residents of the Trailer Estates. As of September of 2022, the voters voted to dissolve the district at a rate of 94% in favor of dissolving the district, 6% opposed to dissolving the district. What that would cause was a gap in the coverage. Historically, big items that have come, fires, any sort of EMS transport has been done by the Cedar Hammock Fire District through the county-wide interlocal agreement through the fire services. This basically would codify that and the elimination of the Trailer Estates Fire Control District. The Cedar Hammock bill, while they're connected, they are two separate bills. The Cedar Hammock bill would allow for a referendum in 2022 to absorb the exact same boundaries of the Trailer Estates Fire Control District into the surrounding Cedar Hammock Fire Control District. So that's bill number 3 on your agenda. Bill number 4 on your agenda simply deletes the special acts and dissolves the Trailer Estates Fire Control District. And as of September of 2022, the remaining assets which basically are a fire station, would be transferred over to the Trailer Estates Park and Rec District that's has similar boundaries and in the same area. We would not be creating a new district, a new station for Cedar Hammock in the Trailer Estates area. There is one across the street on 41 just south of Trailer Estates by the airport that currently services that area, that would continue to service that area. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? I have one question. Is this something that Trailer Estates District has already voted on?
Yes, the Trailer Estates District voted on dissolving the Trailer Estates Fire Control and Rescue District. The Cedar Hammock bill adds the boundaries into the Cedar Hammock Fire Control District of Trailer Estates, subject to a referendum that will occur in the future.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, that completes our local bills. Yep, we now need to take a vote on these local bills. You got a question, Rep. Robinson?
Mr. Chairman, I think we may need to open it up for public hearing, I think
Sure,
if anyone in the public wants to comment on any of those four.
happy to do that. Any members from the public wish to speak on any of the local bills? And I don't see any speaking cards for any of them, so having done that, we will vote now as a delegation, and we will get the vote of Senator Boyd later. So let's just go back, starting with the first one, which was the Scrivener's error correction to North River, removing 11 acres from that multi-thousand acre district. Everybody in support, say aye.
Aye.
And seeing unanimous support. The next one was the North Lake Stewardship District, which I said was similar to Lakewood Ranch and North River, about 25,000 acres. All in support, say aye.
Aye.
Another unanimous support. And the next one was Cedar Hammock Fire District. All in support?
Aye.
Okay. And Trailer Estates Fire District being dissolved that they've already voted in favor of. All in
Aye.
support? Aye. Okay, looks like the delegation supports the four proposed local bills, and we'll take appropriate action in the legislative session. Next up, we've got the chairwoman of Manatee County Commissioners, Chair Vanessa Baugh, to talk to us about Manatee County. Good morning, Chair Baugh.
Good morning. Representative Robinson, Representative Gregory, and Representative Reiner. I cannot believe you're leaving us. I didn't know that. So good morning. I want to thank all of you for supporting Manatee County. You have helped us this year, and I know that we have the same goal of making Manatee County the best it can be to live, work, and play. Manatee County has submitted a document that highlights our top legislative priorities, which are mostly focused on infrastructure. We are growing at a rapid pace, with traffic concerns being the number one issue, which is why that's what we hear from most of our residents and visitors. We are requesting funding to widen roads and improve some of our bridges, which will also help our workforce who work every day. We are looking at investing up to $350 million ourselves, and we need a strong partner like the state of Florida. We would be remiss if we did not mention our beautiful beaches and environment, which are critical to our economy and way of life. One item of great interest is Piney Point. I personally want to thank all of you for everything you did when we had the mishap there. You've been great partners. The state of Florida everyone has been a great partner on this endeavor, and we ask for your help in working with DEP to have a written agreement on funding and closing the stacks. Piney Point has been a nightmare for our environment, and so we appreciate all the support from all of you. One last item is the Department of Children and Families, who has an invaluable role in overseeing the care of Florida's 23,000 estimated children in foster care due to child neglect or abuse. Manatee County is ranked in the top four, one of the top four in Florida for child removal in 2018 and 19. We support a state funding formula that does not rely on risk pool funds, but adequately and equitably distributes state funding to support community-based care that provides child welfare services in our community, as intended by SB 1326, passed during the 2020 legislative session. Again, I want to thank all of you for serving our county. and our great state of Florida. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you.
Any questions? Any questions? Thank you, Chair Ball.
Thank you.
Next up is Clerk Coloniso, and then on deck is Mayor Brown.
Good morning, Chair Gregory, and good morning, Representative Robinson, and good morning, Representative Rayner. I don't want to take your time. I was just in Tallahassee 2 weeks ago, and the timing of our delegation meeting is earlier this year. I did not want to be a no-show this morning out of respect for the delegation. You have our materials, and I thank you so much for your support and for Senator Boyd's support in sponsoring our bill this year. And I'll yield my time to those folks here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Good to see you all.
Mayor Brown, and then we'll hear from, I think, Chair Baugh and Mr. Hutchinson be on deck. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning. How are you this morning? It's great. Thank you for being here, and we appreciate the opportunity for the city of Bradenton. I know Commissioner Ball, or Chair Ball, said a lot about live, work, and play in our beautiful county, but we believe the county seat, the city of Bradenton, is up and running, and we appreciate what you did to keep us up and running through this pandemic. But just thank you for being here, and I know I'm going to introduce our new city administrator, Rob Perry, to give a little bit of a presentation, but we appreciate you being here, and good luck in your endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name's Rob Perry. I'm the city administrator. I've been on the job here at the city of Bradenton for about 5 months, and I'd like to express our appreciation for the work we do with the state. Had the opportunity to talk with many of the players in the community and the partnerships that we have. The city of Bradenton is a unique city to the extent of it's fairly limited in its acreage, and it was built a great deal long time ago. And so we have infrastructure needs. They're somewhat unique as an existing city and the like. And we've been trying to focus on the utilization of state-funded grants, particularly in the area of DEP types projects that would deal with stormwater problems such as that, resiliency and the like. And we've had great response from the administrative agencies. Of course, you, as a legislative body, funds and appropriates that. And we hope that our government affairs group with the Southern Group can coordinate some communications with you all on those grants to advance some of those efforts here in Bradenton. I'd also like to just kind of point out and get on your radar the grant that we have in with the Florida General Infrastructure Program for our continuing operations center for police in the event of disaster recovery needs and the like. That's high on our priority list, and we hope to advance that. We really cherish the relationship with the state. I've been doing this job out of state. I actually started here about 30 years ago with the state attorney's office up in Pinellas County, and certainly recognize the need and support for our law enforcement. We think we have a great police department and public safety program in Bradenton, and we hope to continue keeping that at the forefront and delivering high-quality services. But do want to express our appreciation, look forward to working with you all. I know you have a huge agenda with a lot of needs and limited resources, and I appreciate the work you do. So look forward to working with you further. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chair Baugh is back on deck for Manatee County MPO. And next up will be Mayor Chappie.
Come on up, Dave. Well, good morning, Chair Gregory and the members of the delegation, and once again. As you can see, beside me, I have Dave Hutchinson, the Executive Director of the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Just for the record, Manatee County Commissioner Vanessa Baugh. On behalf of the Sarasota-Manatee Metropolitan Planning Organization, thank you for the opportunity to talk with you about regional transportation priorities. Representative Gregory, I know that's a big thing for you. We provided project lists in advance, and they are similar to what you've seen before. The MPO's 2045 Long-Range Transportation Plan is a vital guiding document for getting these crucial transportation projects built and contributing to the rebound of our economy. Just like our constituents, two of the MPO's biggest concerns are traffic and bridges. DeSoto Bridge is our #1 priority. I'm sure you know that. We appreciate your support for this important project and ask that you continue to keep it on your radar. FDOT has funded the PD&E, and it is currently underway. Construction funds for the replacement of the bridge have been programmed. However, additional funds for further capacity improvements will be necessary pending the results of the PD&E. Other key bridges are reaching the end of their life expectancies and are in the early phases of replacement, with construction funds for Cortez Bridge being programmed during this past year. Anna Maria, Longboat, and Longboat Pass in Manatee are still in the need of further funding. The Barrier Island Traffic Study addressed seasonal and reoccurring traffic issues. We've identified short, medium, and long-term projects to improve traffic flow on and off the barrier islands. While local jurisdictions can implement some of the recommendations, many of our proposed solutions will require state investments on state roads. Beyond these projects, our request is simple. Allocate all transportation funds to transportation. Preserve existing local and state transportation funding sources. Explore new revenue sources for transportation, very important, and ensure equity among counties, MPOs, and FDOT districts. I thank you, and Mr. Hutchinson, anything you'd like to add, sir?
No, we appreciate your support, and we'll look forward to working with you and your staffs as we implement the new work program. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think Representative Robinson has a question.
Actually, I have a question for Mr. Hutchinson.
Go ahead.
I did have a conversation with our district secretary. Maybe if you could spend 1 minute or 2 minutes on the DeSoto Bridge funding that is now in the plan and what that means. It's only for the current bridge. It's not for anything in the future. Maybe spend a minute just to explain that a little bit.
Certainly. There are two PD&E, which is preliminary design and environmental studies that are federally and state required that are underway now. One of them strictly addresses replacement of the bridge pretty much as is. The other addresses the already documented need for additional north-south capacity between Bradenton and Palmetto. And that will pick up where the Central Manatee Network Alternatives Analysis left off in identifying potential new bridge locations or other means of accomplishing providing additional capacity, again, north-south. When I-95 or when I-75, anything happens out there, the traffic all comes over here and it's constrained. So that's what those two studies are. The funding that is in the new draft tentative work program that will become effective in July after the legislature acts will be adopts it as part of the budget. That project is funded in 2027. So we've got the next few years where those two concurrent PD&Es will determine whether or not there's any viability of using the existing corridor for some additional capacity.
Thank you.
And we appreciate that. This is a perfect answer to explain just how critical the work is that your county commissioners in multiple counties and the MPO, that it's really an extra job that they end up taking on, working on all the transportation infrastructure and, being on the MPO, and it is vital to reduce that congestion that we face both east, west, and north-south on our transportation corridors. So, yep, I'm really excited to continue working with you guys and appreciate the work that you both are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. I might add some recognition for Commissioner Baugh, who also serves as an at-large member of the executive board of the statewide Metropolitan Planning Organization Advisory Council, which is all of the MPOs in the state. She's one of 3 elected officials on that board, and so she's involved in influencing transportation beyond our borders.
Oh, keep raising your hand. We're going to keep picking you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. All right, next up, we've got the Minnesota League of Cities, followed by Town of Longboat Key.
Chairman Gregory, Representative Robinson, Representative Rayner, nice to be here before you. I appreciate the fact that you're here to talk with us about our concerns and our priorities that we have. Commissioner Brian Williams is sorry he was not able to make it. I found out yesterday that I was going to be here, so bear with me a little bit. On our concerns, the short-term rental locations, local government regulations, of course, we support the repeal of state preemptions of regulation and short-term rental priorities to allow local governments to regulate such priorities for the protection of our health, safety, and welfare of residents and visitors. Anything you could do there. We also support changes to existing state law relating to short-term rentals that permits grandfathered local governments to modify existing short-term rentals. You know, government closest to the people is the best type of government. That's why you're here, to listen and hear what we have to say. We're your grassroots connections to what is needed and what the priorities are in our communities. And we really appreciate the fact that you take the time, you get involved, you have your staff here to always contacting us and letting us know that you're out there for us, to represent us, and we do appreciate that. On tourist development tax use expansions, we support legislation to expand the usage of collection of bed tax dollars for public safety services. The short-term rental things and things like that have changed the whole concept and what is going on in our tourist areas and our development areas. We love the tourists. We need the tourists, but the challenges are great when it comes to public safety and the public safety for these services, the police priorities, some of the things that we could use the funds for our infrastructure is greatly needed because of the influx of many people, which helps the overall economy of our community, our region, and our state. So we appreciate anything that you can do there. Water quality, sea level rise, we support legislation to provide recurring funding for sources to program projects, water quality, preservation, and enhancement. The local government revenue, community service tax, and local business tax. We support preservation of the community service tax and local business tax. So anything you could do to help us with that. Revenue sources are extremely important to our communities, especially all of our communities. It's tough. We're a growing community. We're a growing state. We need all the help that we can get in these areas. Affordable housing is another serious issue that you guys are going to have to figure out how to do. People can't afford to live, so we need the continuation of the Sadowski Housing Trust Funds. So anything you could do to help preserve and protect and use those funds solely for housing programs, we support that. Mental health institutions, anything that you can do for the funding of mental health facilities and programs. And again, I just want to thank you so much and hope that you can help us as much as we want to help you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Mayor from Longboat Key, and it looks like you're going to be joined by the town manager as well. Or is it just you, sir? Welcome.
Tom just comes as my bodyguard. So good morning. I'm Ken Schneider, Mayor of Longboat Key. Thank you again for inviting us to address critical issues bearing on our region and our state. We've submitted a list of 13 Longboat Key priorities for action in the upcoming legislative session, and I'll address just a few. First, as a barrier island community, we are concerned with water, both its quality and its capacity to harm. As for water quality, we appreciate the recent reemphasis on red tide and other algal mitigation, the upgrade of wastewater treatment facilities, and the focus of Moat Marine and others on cleaning up our rivers and bays. Please continue to fully fund these efforts. On a related matter, we'll continue to seek financial help to upgrade the wastewater line that runs from Longboat Key under Sarasota Bay to Manatee County's treatment facility. Longboat, Manatee, and FDEP have been working hard over the last year and a half to eliminate the risk of any further environmental event from that source. Equally, the damage done by sea level rise in our community increases each year, with at least 5 neighborhoods subject to periodic tidal flooding into yards and homes, even in the absence of bad weather. Engineering and resolving these problems, including the maintenance and replenishment of beaches and dunes, is expensive. We expect the final report in June from a multi-year 4-stage study we have undertaken to address these issues. And while we have already funded some remedial work, the major effort and cost lies ahead. And for that, we would greatly appreciate your help. Besides water, we have discussed at recent meetings what our town's role should be in preventing tragedies like the condominium collapse
earlier this year in Surfside. We have 62 residential buildings on Lombard Key that are at least 3 stories high and 40 years old. In the absence of effective state rules, we're beginning the ad hoc process of collecting information on building maintenance and the quality of reserves and suggesting steps older properties should take to be safe. Nothing calls out for uniform state analysis and regulation more than this. I know the topic is on the docket for your consideration in this session, and we look forward to your leadership and action. In contrast, we would ask you to stay your hand and in some instances reverse the trend toward preempting to the state matters best left to local governments. Hotel houses and short-term rentals are disrupting the quiet enjoyment of single-family communities to an extent not seen since the benefits of zoning were recognized. Recent home occupation legislation even further blurs the line between residential and commercial activities. We think we know our neighborhoods best and ask the state reconsider its incursion into these most local of decisions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate you being here this morning. Next up is going to be Peace River, Minnesota Regional Water Supply Authority, Mr. Coates. And on deck is Reverend James Golden for the Manatee School Board.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Gregory, Representative Rayner, Representative Robinson. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. And on behalf of our Regional Water Supply Authority and our member counties, which include Manatee, Sarasota, Charlotte, and DeSoto, thank you for all the work that you've done to support the regional drinking water system in this area. We deliver today about 30 million gallons a day to our customers in the four-county area. With the growth in this region, that number is only going up. And we've got a couple of projects, local funding initiatives that we have requested your support on. The first of those is a 10-mile pipeline in Sarasota County that takes the regional system further north into Sarasota County and will eventually connect up with Manatee County's water system. That connects up the 2 largest regional water supply systems in this region. So Manatee County system and the authority system, that provides great resiliency, the ability to share resources, and would be a great advantage to everyone in this region. The next project that we have is expansion of our water supply system, and that is we're expanding the storage at our water supply facility. We're planning to build another 9 billion gallon reservoir that will help meet the regional needs for the next 20 years. So we've got those 2 projects as local funding initiatives. We appreciate Representative Robinson and Senator Boyd's support on the pipeline project. We have Senator Gruder's, and Mike Grant to sponsor the reservoir project. So with that, we do appreciate everything you've done for us, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coates. And as Reverend Golden makes his way down for Manatee School Board, on deck is Paula Adams, to be followed by Mark Barnaby. Good morning, Reverend Golden.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the delegation. Thank you for the opportunity to present the legislative session priorities from the Manatee County School Board, as well as our appropriation request. There has been a bill pre-filed and sponsored by Representative Fiona McFarland and Senator Joe Gruters with respect to the school board's request for up to $5.5 million in funding for an aviation maintenance technician school at the Sarasota Bradenton International Airport, which is a collaboration between Manatee County, Sarasota County, and their respective school boards. And now we have been joined in this by the University of South Florida. So we certainly hope that we can count on your support to make this entity something that will be a first in Florida, and B, something that is so needed to provide jobs for this particular area and that will flow all across the state of Florida. We have three legislative priorities, legislative session priorities that we hope that you will consider. The first is that we support adding to the Florida Education Finance Program funding compression and hold harmless allocation. We support adding to that. We have seen a decrease in that funding for several years now, and many more years before that, that particular funding allocation has not been modified. And we are struggling here trying to figure out different ways, the latest of which is the extension of the millage, to try to keep up and try to make sure that quality education is provided here in Manatee County. So we hope that that hold harmless allocation, that funding modification, that adjustment is made, will be considered, will be updated to meet the needs of Manatee County as they are now, and not as they were when this particular allocation was put in place, which is more than a decade ago. We support this funding and ask that it not be eliminated or that it not be decreased. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the school board requests the legislature eliminate for another year, the 21-22 school year, teacher evaluations and individual school and district grades, particularly as they relate to being tied to district assessments. I know that there are other movements in other areas to try to deal with that, but we specifically want to go on record to say that we support that. The school board requests the legislature include pre-kindergarten classroom teachers in the legislative, in the statutory definition of teachers, which is now just K through 12. And so we're asking that be modified to include pre-K teachers, since we are now funding a lot of that. I have one more, but I'll stop in deference to the board.
Thank you, Reverend Golden. We do have the handout, so we can see the fourth one had to do with the 1 mil tax. Let me see if anybody has questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a question, but Reverend Golden, I did want to congratulate you on becoming the chair of the school board. It was historic, and I just want to take an opportunity and point of personal privilege to acknowledge that and to congratulate you.
Thank you, Representative Rayner.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
You too.
Okay. May I be excused?
Sir.
I'm an old lawyer, and before you leave the venue, you ask the court if you may be excused, because I do have to go do some other things.
Yes, sir. Of course you may.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Next up, guardian ad litem, Paula Adams, and then followed by Mark Barnaby for University Park Rec District.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. My name is Paula Adams, and I'm the managing attorney for the 12th Judicial Circuit Guardian Ad Litem Program. You likely know that the 12th Circuit is comprised of Manatee, Sarasota, and DeSoto counties. By Florida statute, our Guardian Ad Litem Program represents the abused, neglected, and abandoned children of the circuit in dependency and termination of parental rights proceedings. Our representation is comprised of three components. The volunteer, the guardian ad litem volunteer, who works with the child's school, teachers, therapists, doctors. The child advocate manager, who works with the volunteer and helps the volunteer understand their role. And of course, the attorney, who represents the child in the courtroom. Unfortunately, at this time, we are unable to represent every child. We just don't have the manpower. At my last count, there was 1,333 children in the circuit in dependency court, and our circuit reaches 90% of them. So the vast majority, however, every child deserves to be represented by this team. The guardian ad litem doesn't seek general revenue funds at this point in time, but rather legislative authority for our grants and donations trust fund to spend money that is already there, which is FORI money. It's federal dollars. We're not asking for any additional dollars at all. No additional dollars are needed. Across the state, we're asking for, I think, 67.5 positions in total, which is what we believe will be necessary to represent all of the children in these proceedings. You probably already know that $4E refer to the subpart of the Social Security Act, which provides federal grants to states for child welfare services. Title 4E sets out how states may receive federal money for foster care, prevention, and permanency. What you may not know is that until 2019, the only expense states could claim was for Department of Children and Family representation in dependency court. After 2019, the Department of Children and Families, the Administration of Children and Families, my apologies, revised its policy to allow states to claim reimbursement for expenses related to independent legal representation, like ours. To access and spend those 4E dollars, the Guardian program needs only one thing. We need legislative authority for the use of those federal funds. They will be placed in the Guardian Ad Litem Trust account. Now, DCF, Department of Children and Families, has already told us that we are in the state plan. The Guardian Ad Litem and the Department of Children and Families have negotiated a memorandum of understanding to describe how the Guardian Ad Litem program will report these expenses for federal funds. That memorandum of understanding to spend federal dollars, it will come from our Grants and Donations Trust Fund. It's already there.
We thank you for your presentation. I don't see anything in my binder anyway in terms of material. If you could provide it to the delegation later, we would
I'd be happy
appreciate it.
to.
Thank you. Any
Thank you.
questions? All right. Thank you for your time this morning. Next up, Mr. Barnaby, and it looks like you get to go twice in a row. So first for University Park and then for City of Palmetto, followed by City of Holmes Beach.
Good morning. Good morning, Representative Gregory, Representative Robinson, Representative Rayner. Good luck. I'm here on behalf of the University Park Recreation District. Our chairman, Jim Case, is here with me today. University Park Recreation District is a recreation district that was created to serve approximately 2,000 residents. It is located on University Parkway, and it is, we are requesting a revision to sections 418.21 and 418.22 of the Florida statutes to allow the possibility of voting in elections for supervisors based on essentially a one vote per residential lot or parcel, and to allow the bonds for public improvements at a recreation district to be sold at either a public or private sale. These changes will provide an opportunity first in regard to the voting for fair representation of all owners within the recreation district, because oftentimes we have more than one resident, more than one owner of a piece of property, or more than one resident of a piece of property, and that's how the voting is required to be right now. One vote per lot makes a lot of sense in that regard, and is similar to what you do with CDDs when they start out, where you have a one vote per acre option. The other change will provide the possibility of increased savings related to the issuance of bonds in circumstances, particularly when interest rates are rising quickly. Our proposals do not eliminate any existing options currently in the statutes for electing supervisors or the issuances of bonds, and will provide us with more opportunities to serve our residents at a lower cost. With that, we don't think these changes will adversely impact any existing or future districts, and with that, we respectfully request those two changes. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on 418? All right, thank you, Mr. Barnaby. Go to the next issue.
All right, oddly enough, I'm still Mark Barnaby. Thank you again. Mayor Bryan could not be here today, but passes along both her and the City Commission's best wishes. Palmetto, I think, as you all know, is the oldest municipality in Manatee County and has approximately 14,000 residents. Palmetto has been working very hard to upgrade its sewer infrastructure, and is the only government in Manatee County that has an advanced wastewater treatment system. The city of Palmetto is requesting a $750,000 allocation grant from the state to purchase and install a backup generator for the wastewater treatment plant system. This purchase would replace and upgrade a generator that was originally installed in 2003. The backup generator maintains resiliency against power loss. Obviously, that would power loss would adversely affect the sewer service for our approximately 14,000 residents and a number of residents outside of the city of Palmetto, which we serve because we are the closest sewer system. And two, the sewer plant generator, if we have a power loss, will have a harmful effect on our environment, increasing the possibility of a spill into the Manatee River and Terracea Bay, which we really do not want to do. And with that, we respectfully request the funding of the $750,000 for the backup backup generator. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any other questions, and happy Thanksgiving.
Any questions? Seeing no questions, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you very much.
Next up, home speech, to be followed by Dr. Holbrook from USF Sarasota Manatee.
Good morning, Chairman Gregory, Representatives Rayner and Robinson. On behalf of our mayor, Titsworth, my fellow commissioners, and our community, I thank you genuinely for the opportunity to speak to you directly. As we all are facing the impacts of growth in our very popular community, we have resulted in drafting 4 major topics for your consideration. I'd like to read just the Cliff Notes portion of them. The details are on the reverse side of the documents that we have provided. Number 1, with regard to vacation rentals, the City of Holmes Beach opposes further limitations on local government authority to regulate vacation rentals. The city supports legislation that repeals the state preemption of the regulation of short-term rental properties to allow local governments to regulate such properties to protect the health and welfare of residents, visitors, and businesses. We support changes to existing state law relating to short-term rentals that permit grandfathered local governments to modify existing short-term rental regulations. With regard to water and air quality, the City of Holmes Beach supports legislation that provides a recurring funding source for programs and projects to mitigate the negative environmental and economic impact of red tides and other harmful algae blooms threatening our beaches and bayside canals. I'm proud to say we have just created our own water quality committee that represents, with representation from our sister cities of Anna Maria and Bradenton Beach, to study and further investigate what we as an island community can do to help propel the safety and protection of our waters. Under the banner of local government revenue, the City of Holmes Beach opposes legislative efforts that modifies, restricts, or eliminates the authority of municipalities to levy or collect local business taxes. The city supports allowing municipalities to continue to collect business taxes, which allows the city to monitor our business mix and offerings in our community. And lastly, under tourist development revenue allocation, the City of Holmes Beach supports legislation to expand usage of collected tourist or bed taxes for both public safety services and infrastructure maintenance, repair, and replacement in municipalities where substantial portions of a county's tourist taxes are collected. Right on cue. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to address them.
I think we have no questions. We appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Next up, Dr. Holbrook is going to kick off 5 in a row. 5 hardworking, wicked smart, talented women leading one university, 2 state colleges, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance. So those are the 5 on deck. Dr. Holbrook, we appreciate you being here and leading it off for us.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Chair Gregory, Representative Robinson, Representative Rayner. Good to see you all. On behalf of the University of South Florida Board of Trustees and our interim president, Rhea Law, I thank you for your continued support for our institution. As you prepare for the 2022 legislative session, I want to share with you a few of the highlights of the USF Sarasota Manatee campus over the past year. We're continuing to increase access to preeminent academic programs available to students in our region as part of the consolidated USF. This expands a portfolio of 20-degree programs to more than 200 and adds a wider range of graduate programs. We've focused our programs in 3 specific sectors, or clusters, that capitalize on our strengths, our partnerships with the community, and correspond to our region's major employment needs and opportunities. One cluster, the Business Hub, includes the School of Risk Management and Insurance, Cybersecurity Information Systems Management, and other related cyber topics, the School of Hospitality and Tourism Management, and other central business programs. The second cluster, the Health Hub, includes our Accelerated Nursing Program, which has graduated its first class of BSN-trained nurses, enrolled a second class, and will double the size of the program with a third cohort that will be joining us in January to help meet state, local, and national needs for nurses. The Health Hub also includes aging studies, communication science and disorders, behavioral health, and programs to prepare students for the health professions. The third cluster, early university programs, includes dual enrollment programs with our community high schools. USF Sarasota Manatee is serving approximately 800 high school juniors and seniors with a 3.5 grade point average to take college courses, which will decrease their cost and their time to degree when they enter the university. Other programs provide pathways for high school students to our campus to continue their education are the PAINT program. This is a program you all funded, by the legislature funded a few years ago, that's Partners in Art Integrated Teaching, which is a statewide center and initially funded by you and the Community Partnership School, which provides expanded in-class and after-class learning with support from the school district, health providers, nonprofit organizations, and universities. To meet the needs of our fast-growing community, we've worked with President Law to develop plans for our campus expansion, options for building a student center and a residence hall, which could completely change the current makeup of our commuter campus. Lastly, with the support of President Law, we're pursuing the STEM building, which is called the ISTEC building, or Integrated Science and Technology and Arts Complex, which will allow us to teach our local students with state-of-the-art labs and facilities such as a SOC, Security Operations Center, to fulfill workforce needs in high-demand jobs. I want to thank Senator Boyd, Representative Robinson for their leadership in helping us work to secure the necessary state funding toward this STEM facility, which will be an important community aspect. We'll work together to grow relevant programs in this community to ensure the future success of the region and the state of Florida. Thank you very much for your time and for your continued support.
Thank you, Doctor. Tough to, break down into 3 minutes everything that your university does for the area and all the needs and working relationship with the state, but great job, and we appreciate the materials you provided. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up would be Dr. Probstville, but I know she's not here, but Mr. Thomas, we're glad to have you here this morning, and I know this is, I believe this might be your last delegation meeting. I think that was true for Sarasota County. We're going to miss you, but we're glad that we've got you for one more legislative session.
Well, thank you. Good morning, and Dr. Probstfield sends her regards, and I am happy to have the opportunity to speak with you today one final time now, I promise, about the 22 legislative priorities for the State College of Florida, Manatee, Sarasota. Thank you for the work that this delegation has done to help guide our region and our state through a very difficult year. You have our list of priorities in front of you. Each of these priorities allow SCF to create greater access to higher education and workforce training throughout our region. Access to additional laboratory courses in the south end of our region, access to workforce programs, campus-based courses and support services in the parish area, and greater access to one of the state's best two-year registered nursing programs. With expanded access at the heart of our legislative requests, Dr. Probstfield and I look forward to working with each of you this session and know that together we can continue to do noteworthy things for Manatee County. That's all. Subject to your questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in Tallahassee.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Next up, Dr. Oker. Welcome to Florida. Congratulations on leading New College. We're excited about what you have to present to us today, and I know you've got 3 big fans in New College up here, so welcome.
Yes. Thank you so much. Good morning, and I really do want to thank you for this opportunity to be here. This my first time here I'm really pleased, and it's great to hear from all the other community members about priorities, so thank you for this. And I also want to thank you for your ongoing support of New College of Florida. Your support allows us to continue to provide a nationally ranked liberal arts education that is integrated with career education, and we're very grateful for your support. I will be very brief. We have one priority for our legislative ask, and that is the renovation and remodeling of our Hamilton classroom building. This is a real workhorse of a building on our campus with serious deficiencies in terms of electrical, ADA, plumbing, a number of other things, and also in terms of the design of the teaching space. This is the #1 ranked project on the Board of Governors list of fixed capital outlay projects. It is also the lowest cost project of the 21 projects that are listed on the Board of Governors approved PICO list. And we are also grateful to the support of the Board of Governors. Again, as I mentioned, it will address significant code and functional deficiencies in a 40-year-plus old building. This is a central building that provides in addition to teaching facilities, housing, student affairs, disability services, and student activities. So it really is central to our efforts to recruit and retain students here at New College. And again, thank you for your support. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Oker.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Next up, President and CEO of the Manatee Chamber of Commerce, on deck, Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance.
Good morning. Thank you. For the record, Jackie Dzelski, President and CEO at the Manatee Chamber, Chair Gregory, Representatives Robinson, Representative Rayner. Thank you so much for your service. On behalf of our Board of Directors at the Manatee Chamber and the more than 2,000 businesses and organizations that invest in our mission, representing their 69,000 employees, we are grateful to you for your leadership and your willingness to hear from the community so that you can take our local concerns to Tallahassee, not just for the benefit of our community, but for the entire state. Despite the challenges of the past almost 2 years of facing the pandemic, we applaud you for your compassion and your concern. We have a number of successes to celebrate from this past legislative session, including Main Street fairness, as well as reduction of liability for businesses, and the list goes on. We could applaud, but I know we're looking forward to the upcoming session. We look forward to being with you next week. We're meeting with each of you, as well as a number of other elected officials and agency representatives when we're in Tallahassee for your last week. So thank you in advance. Also, Representative Gregory, if I can thank your staff, particularly Carol, for organizing today's opportunity as well. I will try not to be too repetitive for some of the priorities that have been shared by other organizations that share a similar platform. I know you have our full platform. With regards to our legislative committee's work, know that the priorities that the Chamber brings to you comes with the expertise and perspective of many business leaders across a variety of industries in putting together our platform. With regards to workforce, we too support the new collaborative regional effort at SRQ to bring the regional maintenance and training program that is so needed for workforce development. With regards to infrastructure, our priorities too mention the replacement of the DeSoto Bridge, as well as construction funding for the Anna Maria and Cortez bridges, as well as additional east-west and north-south capacity that is so desperately needed for our growing community and to support the economic growth of businesses as well. With regards to small businesses, we have priorities related to policies that encourage supporting local businesses that are located right here in our community, that are the smallest employers, that are the heartbeat of the economy, create jobs and bolster our local businesses. Increased broadband accessibility as well is equally important to businesses as it is to residents and our students. With regards to taxation, we appreciate your attention to the business rent tax and the progress that we've made. We encourage that attention as well on the communication services tax as well as Florida's corporate income tax. With regards to economic development, 2 priorities related to Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida. We have been long-term supporters of continued funding to make sure we're marketing the state of Florida as a premier business destination as well as a world-class tourist destination. Our recent membership survey mentioned affordable housing, no surprise to you, as well as the inability of many small businesses to offer health insurance to their employees. Thank you so much for that attention. If you don't mind, I would also like to introduce you to our Vice President of Public Policy, Tara Polton. I know you've met her. You will see her in Tallahassee, and we look forward to seeing you at our Pancakes and Politics event in just a couple of weeks. Happy Thanksgiving, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you for being here this morning. We've got a Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance up next, and on deck will be Dr. Crosby.
Thank you. I'm Susan Goldstein, Chair of the Governmental Affairs Committee of the Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance. On behalf of the Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance, I would like to thank you for your efforts to strengthen our business community. This is a common goal for both of our organizations. And it's common for our 550 businesses and over 2,000 members. Enjoyed meeting you all in Tallahassee, Representative Robinson, Chair Gregory, Representative Rayner. And I know one of the things we all talked about was workforce, and we'll get into that. But before I go further in our legislative agenda, I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce 2 important people from our organization. One, I have with me Brittany Lamont, who is our new CEO and president. She came to us from the Greater Sarasota Chamber and has been on a sprint since she joined us at the beginning of this month. She is destined to do great things for our organization. Also with me is Ron Beck, who is a board member of the Alliance and is incoming chair of the Governmental Affairs Committee. I leave the committee in great hands with him. I am confident in the years to come you will see and hear much from these 2 individuals. We are grateful for the conversations we had with you all in Tallahassee, and workforce was certainly paramount among those. This relates to our agenda, which you have in front of us, that deals with training, education, as is laid out in that agenda. In addition to workforce, we lay out issues in our agenda for economic development and infrastructure. We highlight a focus on affordable housing and increased access to broadband for our communities. We thank you for the transportation projects you have brought to our region and will continue to improve our mobility. Thank you again for the efforts on our behalf, and we look forward to continuing our relationship. Please remember that we join you in our commitment to strengthening the business community. Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you being here and appreciate your leadership in Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance, and we know you're going to continue leading in the local area. Congratulations to the new team. Dr. Crosby, I wouldn't want to have to follow Susan Goldstein and President Dzelski and Dr. Oker and this team, but you represent a great organization and legend in your own right. We welcome you here this morning, Dr. Crosby.
Well, Chairman Gregory, Representative Robinson, Representative Rayner, it is indeed intimidating to follow a team of wicked smart women that you had before me, but all of you have been very, very strong supporters for MOAT's innovative red tide mitigation, coral reef restoration, and STEM education initiatives over the years, and I thank you all for helping Florida demonstrate that science, the environment, and STEM education rise above politics. That climate has created an atmosphere for game-changing investments for innovations in research and STEM education. And Moat uses those investments to leverage additional funds from private philanthropy to create public-private partnerships for research in STEM education. An example is the new Moat Science Education Aquarium, or Moat C, which will be an iconic and highly impactful centerpiece of research, the environment, and STEM education for our region. We're leveraging state and local government investments to secure an additional $100 million of philanthropic support to provide transformational opportunities for STEM education to 70,000 K-12 students annually, along with informal science education experiences to the families of 24,000 Title I students each year, all free of charge to the schools and the students' families. We're also creating, and thank you, Representative Robinson, for leading this, the STEM workforce training laboratories that will be in Moat C as well. Our Red Tide program, as we're entering year 3 of that partnership of the Red Tide Mitigation Technology Development Initiative, we've also made significant advances, and we'll be sharing with you all in January our 2nd annual report. As we're celebrating our recent accomplishments with coral restoration, well over 130, near 140,000 corals that have been transplanted, we know now is the time that we must continue that effort. And I know that we can count on all of you for your continued strong support for Moat's mission of innovative research and STEM education initiatives. Our priorities are coral reefs, red tide, Moat C, but we'll also be requesting this year your consideration for a new effort, a new initiative to transform Florida's agriculture and aquaculture production in local communities by transferring integrated technology models for sustainable commercial aquaculture. And I thank Chair Gregory for helping with that. And with that, I'll just close by saying happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And of course, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Thank you, Dr.
Thanks.
Crosby. Next up, we've got Brenna Slater from the Safe Children Coalition, and then Mr. Kevin Wright from the Liberty Caucus.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, Chairman Gregory and Representative Rayner and Representative Robinson. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Brenna Slater, Safe Children Coalition. As you've heard, Manatee County actually took our issues as one of their priorities this year, and that is absolutely amazing for us. You heard that Manatee County has been one of the top 4 removal counties within the state of Florida in the last 2 years. However, since 2015, it was number one and number 2 for many, many months for all of those years before the last 2 years. We put a lot of diversion and prevention services in Manatee County to help support the children and families that we're serving here. I know you've already heard me talk about the difference in the funding. There's areas that receive anywhere from $10 to $30 to $50 million more than our organization receives every year. And we are going to fight as hard as we can to make sure that there's changes this year within the law and that our children in Manatee, Sarasota, and DeSoto County that we serve are getting equally funded. Our children deserve to be funded the same way that other children, and our families deserve the same level of services that other children. So I won't get into that, but I did want to make sure that you all know December 7th, 5:30, we will be having our forum. I would love for you all to be here. It is the Fair Funding for Foster Care Forum so that all of our community members know how to advocate this legislative session for the children and families in our area. And I just want to say thank you very much for all your support. Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Colonel Wright, followed by Ms. Christine Johnson from the Conservation Foundation.
Good morning, all. I'm Kevin Wright, Chairman of the Manatee County Republican Liberty Caucus. We're neither chartered nor affiliated with the Republican Party. We are the conscience of the Republican Party. But the 3 pillars upon which we stand are foundational American, not partisan principles. Those pillars are constitutionally limited powers of government, individual rights and responsibilities, and free enterprise, free markets. Separation of powers, checks and balances, and American federalism are the means to protect those principles. Our parent state organization has tripled in membership in the past year and will likely break 1,000 by year's end. We've chartered counties in every corner and in the center of the state. It's likely that within a couple years, every Florida county will have a chartered Republican Liberty Caucus, some too. We have representatives who have taken up residence in the Capitol with you, and you no doubt continue to get regular emails and phone calls from the caucus membership on these and other issues. I only have a few minutes, so I'll get right to it. Most of what I present now is taken from the handout submitted last week, with the exception of revision based upon the outcome of the special legislative session which just ended. First, we support all three bills filed by Representative Gregory as of a week ago. House Bill 501, Stop Taxpayer-Funded Lobby Act, is particularly attractive to our members. We will look at the remaining filings of the rest of you and all other legislators, to include Senator Boyd, ahead of our lobby days visit to Tallahassee on January 18th and 19th. We'll see you then. We no longer want the inalienable right of self-defense to be treated like a second-class civil liberty. Perhaps the state and House pro tem leaders have shared with you the thousands of postcards our members have sent in the last months on this topic. Florida's red flag law, currently written, constitutes a gross violation of the due process rights of Floridians and should be amended or repealed. We desire repeal of SB 7026, signed by then-Governor Christ, and restoring the gun rights of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds to purchase firearms from a licensed dealer. Anyone receiving a risk protection order under this statute should have the right to be represented by legal counsel provided by the state. We support bills filed to establish constitutional carry, open carry, and campus carry. We support free market solutions to increase health care access and lower health care costs for consumers. We believe the outcome of the special session is inarguably a step forward. Thank you, Governor DeSantis. The state government entities in particular have clarity that mandated personal health choice is not permitted in the free state of Florida. You cannot declare victory, however, given the shortfalls in applying the same principle in the private sector. Private companies cannot fire an employee for their status, but the fines for doing so are so meager as to represent a pittance for large corporations such as Disney Corporation, with whom your leadership negotiated the bill's language. Companies can still choose not to hire based upon vaccination status and are still free to set work conditions for unvaccinated or non-mask wearing employees tantamount to discrimination and infringement on individual liberty, which could amount to coercion and tolerance of unacceptable work conditions for some. We continue to support HB 75. You can read the details in our handout. We have not found a city, county, or state elected official who does not agree that the wording and application of Florida sunshine laws need to be reformed. City and county officials ought to be permitted to exercise the same First Amendment rights that state legislators like yourselves enjoy in doing your job. We support a thorough review of Florida's government and the sunshine statutes to ensure that local officials are free to discuss issues in public forums, even if not organized by themselves, and even if there's no public agenda. What is lacking is the political courage to say so publicly. What is lacking is the political leadership to educate the voting public to gain consensus on this truth. Until those conditions are met, local and county government in Florida will continue to be dysfunctional. Citizens' ability to interact with its government will be more, not less, difficult, and our government will continue to be less, not more transparent.
Colonel Wright.
I wish you a happy Thanksgiving, and not just to you, but to the entire community. The rest of the details, of course, you can read in the handout and the additional handout updated that I gave out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Wright. All right, next up, we've got Ms. Christine Johnson here from the Conservation Foundation. Okay, we have a representative from Conservation Foundation. After that, we'll have from Bishop Museum, Martha Wells. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Leanne Rodriguez from Conservation Foundation of the Gulf Coast. Thank you for this great opportunity to talk to you about the importance of protecting land and water in Florida for the benefit of people and for nature. We commend you. We thank you for allocating $300 million from the federal COVID-19 economic relief package to conserve lands in Florida Wildlife Corridor. However, it does not include land protection opportunities in Manatee County. Therefore, we strongly suggest that current funds within the Florida Forever program be used in Manatee County and our neighboring jurisdictions that are not within the Greenway. Also, we ask that you appropriate an additional $300 million to the Land Acquisition Trust Fund this coming year to acquire priority lands and conservation easements. Thanks to Florida voters, the Land Acquisition Trust Fund currently receives $600 million every year. That means that our state can fund Florida Forever with certainty and in a recurring manner. And that is what the Florida voters wanted and intended when they voted on this tax, that their tax dollars consistently be applied to the pressing environmental needs of our state, and that they do not have to rely on short-term or one-off funding sources. Florida Forever is the state's conservation and recreation's land acquisition program, a blueprint for conserving Florida's natural and cultural heritage. Florida Forever supports a wide range of goals, including water resource protection, coastal resiliency, preservation of cultural resources, public access to outdoor recreation, and the restoration and maintenance of public lands. And some of the programs are even designed to not increase state management costs. While Manatee County has an excellent land acquisition program, partnering with Florida Forever will enable both programs to leverage their limited funds and protect even more special places. If conserved, these lands will provide significant ecological benefits to our surface and ground waters and enormous recreational benefits to citizens and tourists alike. Conservation Foundation of the Gulf Coast and our thousands of supporters implore you to allocate the much-needed funds to conserve the special places here in Florida. These special places drive our economy, protect our drinking water, and ensure our farms and ranches continue to produce our food. Please support appropriating $300 million from the Land Acquisition Trust Fund to Florida Forever, $50 million to the Rural and Family Lands Protection Program, and $50 million to Florida's Community Trust. Our way of life depends on it. Thank you and happy Thanksgiving. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Martha Wells, the Chief Strategic Officer from the Bishop Museum of Science and Nature. Earlier this year, Hillary Spencer joined the museum as CEO following the retirement of our longtime CEO. Hillary brings new leadership, as evidenced by the giant dinosaurs you see roaring and moving around over in our courtyard. She sends her regret for not being able to address you today and hopes to see all of you either at the museum or in Tallahassee in the very near future. The Bishop has been the largest natural history museum on the Gulf Coast for almost 75 years. We have a state-of-the-art digital planetarium where we can fly you through the universe and have you back in time for lunch. And we are home to fascinating exhibitions about Florida's natural history. The Bishop is an important contributor to the region's educational, tourism, cultural, and economic landscapes. Dino Don's Dino Venture is designed to attract people to downtown Bradenton for an affordable, safe, family-friendly experience. The signs describing the dinosaurs are in Spanish as well as English. The museum has been an important part of the statewide manatee rehabilitation network since 1998, and we've helped rehabilitate 46 manatees, including the 3 female calves we're currently caring for. We were among the founding partners of the Manatee Rescue and Rehabilitation Partnership in 2001. The MRP, as it's called, is permitted by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission to help sick and injured manatees return to the wild. I believe you're all aware that Florida's manatees are experiencing a crisis. Florida's Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission and the Fish and Wildlife Research Institute have documented unprecedented manatee mortality due to the starvation on the East Coast. Many deaths occurred in the Indian River Lagoon region, where the majority of seagrass has died off. Tragically, the situation is expected to continue, potentially for years, and the same conditions could develop here on the West Coast. It will take time to learn about the long-term health effects of prolonged starvation in manatees that survive this unusual mortality event, as it's officially been designated. In light of this situation, FWC and the Fish and Wildlife Service have asked the Bishop to expand our manatee rehabilitation efforts. We are working with them to do so in a way that leverages our specific expertise with rehabilitating young manatee calves and also expands the overall capacity of the rehabilitation network. Successfully rehabilitating calves is key to the long-term recovery of the species. We've also been asked to help train staff, new staff at other organizations and the animal care teams. Additionally, we educate the public about the challenges facing manatees, and for reference, November is Manatee Awareness Month. So I invite each of you to come to the museum and see the manatees and the dinosaurs. And I appreciate the opportunity to provide these comments, and also we thank you for your support of the museum.
Thank you. Next up, we've got Florida Life Care Residents Association, and then the following two will be Manatee Habitat for Humanity and Florida Retired Educators Association.
Good morning, legislative delegation. Very pleased to be with you. I've been before delegations for at least 25 times over the years. And so it's a pleasure again to let you know that I've been a resident of Manatee County for over 45 years, and the last 12 years, my late husband and I have been residents of Freedom Village Continuing Care Retirement Community, known as a CCRC, which I hope you're aware we have 3 levels of care there: the independent living, assisted living, and skilled nursing. I'm president of the Freedom Village chapter of the Florida Life Care Residents Association, and immediate past president. I'm on the state FLICRA board as immediate past president of that board, so I continue on that. There are over 13,000 members. We've lost about 1,000 during the pandemic for various reasons. We had more than 13,000 in 56 Florida CCRCs. I've been around to most of them during the past 12 years. They have FLICRA chapters throughout our state. Over 400 FLICRA members reside in Freedom Village. So residents living in CCRC communities make a substantial investment through entrance fees. Mine was almost $400,000 to prepay for our potential health care, because I plan to be there at least 10 or 12 more years. And we pay monthly service fees as well. We have a lifetime contract. We are guaranteed living space suitable for our needs for the rest of our lives. FLICRA was formed by CCRC residents over 32 years ago and led to regulation of our communities through enactment of Chapter 651 of the Florida statutes. That's titled Continuing Care Contracts. That's implemented and enforced through the state's Office of Insurance Regulation, the OIR. So the mission of FLICRA is to promote and protect the rights of residents of CCRCs, and that's been accomplished through our relationships with our elected officials and state regulating agencies. So we are known, FLICRA is known and respected all those years in the Capitol as the voice of CCRC residents. It's through our efforts in continuing to update Florida law with protective legislation, both physically and fiscally. For the upcoming 2022 state legislative session, FLICRA has identified 32 proposed bills to be tracked throughout the legislative process as bills of possible impact on CCRC residents and seniors. I do wish to let you know that as your legislative committee meetings progress, as well as during the 65-day session, I will be requesting your support as our district representatives and senators to support FLICRA's position of either support or opposition on specific proposed bills. Before I close, I think it's important to let you know that our residents at Freedom Village are proud to be active, responsible, knowledgeable voters. Our Freedom Village polling precinct, check it out, number 321, is consistently tops in Manatee County voting turnout percentage. CCRC residents are of the greatest generation and of the silent generation that followed. We share the main values of security and stability. We are savers and planners, and we look to our elected officials to acknowledge these values in adopting legislation that serves our best interests. We'll rely on you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ms. Shoemaker from Manatee Habitat for Humanity, and then Florida Retired Educators.
Good morning. I'm Diana Shoemaker, and I'm the President and CEO of Manatee County Habitat for Humanity. First, I want to thank you for your past support of Habitat for Humanity and for affordable housing in general. Florida Habitats construct approximately 20% of all U.S. Habitat homes, more than any other state. Florida Habitats have built, rehabbed, and repaired more than 23,000 homes, and these homeowners now pay more than $12 million in property taxes annually. Last year, our 88 Manatee Habitat families paid more than $90,000 in property taxes. And over the past 25 years, our homes have provided safe and secure shelter to over 300 children. Our future homes will be in the city of Palmetto and a 16-home community in West Samoset. Habitat continues to be a sound investment for the state because we leverage every dollar we receive with private donations and volunteer support. In 2015, Habitat affiliates turned $20 million in funding from the state mortgage settlement funds into $80 million of market rate housing. Florida's families are facing a housing crisis and challenges. 1 in 6 households pay more than 50% of their income for housing. Our programs provide families with an affordable mortgage, keeping housing at or below 30% of their income. Mortgage payments are funneled back to build more homes, leveraging each state dollar made available. The backlog of affordable units, which began with the 2008 mortgage crisis, has become worse with the pandemic. Construction costs have skyrocketed, and Habitat building costs statewide are up 22%. Habitat Florida is attempting to address this shortfall with a statewide ARPA request. We ask for your support. Relief is also needed from the increasing property insurance, which hits hard our homeowners and others in the state. We have the affordable housing programs to address our housing needs, programs like Habitat for Humanity, SHIP, and Sadowski Trust Funds, programs which provide the housing, jobs, local purchasing of materials, and generate property tax revenue for our local economy. Please consider adding funds to these good investments as we work together to solve the affordable housing need of Manatee County and of this state. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. My name is Susan Darabek. I'm with the Florida Retired Educators Association. I've given you a copy of our legislative priorities for this year, but I want to speak especially to the one that says that we watch what is happening with the Florida Pension Fund. Last year, we were distressed to see some activity against the Florida Pension Fund, so I wanted to speak to you about that. Pensions are a good deal for taxpayers in the state of Florida. Funding of public employee pensions is shared by employees and employers. New FRS employees contribute 3% of their pay into the fund, and over time, investment income earned by the fund does most of the work. In fact, between 1993 and 2018, taxpayers via the employer contributions paid only 25.2% of the cost of pension benefits in Florida. The pension investment earnings paid 71.8% of the payouts. The average pension in the state of Florida is under $2,000. One of the reasons that the pension fund in Florida is so healthy is that the investment team counted on longevity of the plan, counted on money being paid into the pension system year after year. Ash Williams, who had been the lead counselor in the investment team, is retiring this year, but he often explained how longevity made such a difference. And pensions encourage people to get a job teaching in Florida. If there is no pension in Florida, teachers may end up somewhere else. People talk about the unfunded liability of our pension system, but that's not an issue because not everyone plans to retire tomorrow. Not the 500,000 members of FRS are going to retire tomorrow. It's like a mortgage. You're not expected to pay it off tomorrow. In the last year, between July 1st of 2020 and July 1st of 2021, the pension fund balance increased $38.5 billion and now sits at $199 billion. This is in addition to all of the payments that went out on a monthly basis. Last year, SB 84 was suggested that would end the pension system for the state of Florida. Any new hires would not be allowed to go into the pension system. I would ask you, look at the data before such a bill is put out again for you to vote on. I know that in the House it was not brought to a vote, but please look at the data and see what is good with our pension system and see how it works for the state of Florida in infusing the state with money from the pension holders in the state of Florida. Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we've got from Women's Voices of Southwest Florida, followed by Manatee County Democratic Party.
I think we need to start the clock off again because it's.
Carol, can you restart? There you go. Just wait till they begin. And good morning.
Representatives. Thank you for making time. My name, I hope. Get this brightness turned up here. All right, perfect. So my name's Kate Danahy Sametz. I'm here on behalf of Women's Voices of Southwest Florida, a local grassroots movement that was founded in June. I'm just one of the co-founders. We've got Sarah here behind me. She's another co-founder, and this is a large portion of our leadership team. We organized the October 2nd March for Reproductive Rights. That was right here in Manatee County. It brought over 1,100 people together in solidarity for autonomous freedom. It was a beautiful, incredible day, one of the most diverse and largest marches in Manatee County history. So first, I'd like to take a moment to commend the aforementioned legislative priority requests. They will be very helpful to our community, especially the increase in foster care budget, the affordable housing initiative, and the water quality. So to move forward, anti-abortion legislation was brought to the dais in June by Commissioner James Thatcher. And in response, we felt that it was important to organize with people in Southwest Florida that are dedicated to the defense of civil liberties and investing back into our communities. We'll be mobilizing to Tallahassee in January, actually, but we figured since you were here now, might as well take the opportunity to plant the seed. So we're here today to formally request that the efforts to install HB 167 be redirected to developing a comprehensive family planning initiative throughout the state of Florida, much like the Colorado Family Planning Initiative. The initiative includes basic resources that have been proven to drastically reduce abortion rates in the communities that have access to them. These resources include comprehensive sexual education, which is not currently mandated in Florida, provision of free, long-acting, removable contraceptives like IUDs and vasectomies, which are 99.9% effective when compared to oral contraceptive, which is just 99% effective, and increased comprehensive family planning resources for those families that see the pregnancy through. In Colorado, it was initially funded by an anonymous private donation from June 2009 to June 2015. It amounted to about $3 million annually for the entire state. And they provided the free LARCs, long-acting removable contraceptive, to teens and adults, resulting in a 54% drop in teen pregnancy and abortion, as well as a 20% drop in women 20 to 24. Every dollar that was invested into the program saved the state about $6 in labor and delivery costs, which could be reinvested into the program, perpetually funding itself after, I'm not an accountant, but after the meantime. And in higher poverty counties, the initiative reduced teen birth rates by about 8% in its first 4 years, and an additional 10% in the second through fourth year. 1 in 6 Floridians currently are living at or below the poverty line, so this would be very beneficial to those communities as well. It reduced the number of women dropping out of high school by 14%, led to an additional 3,800 women between 20 and 22 also getting that diploma, and statewide saw a 2% increase in graduation rates of high school. So in Florida, we value our personal liberties, like our American fundamental right to bear arms. And we believe wholeheartedly that the right to autonomous freedom is one of those liberties. So thank you for your time. I don't want to take too much more of it. I know that we've got a lot of speakers here today also, speaking on behalf of themselves and their organizations. So if you have any questions, we've compiled a comprehensive set of information on this initiative, and we're happy to send it to you. Thank you.
Questions? Representative Rayner?
Well, not a question. It's good to see all
good
of
to
you.
see
I've
you.
worked with them before. Thank you so much for just highlighting the intersectionality of reproductive justice with water, the intersectionality of reproductive justice with affordable housing and healthcare. So I thank you for the work that you've done and how you're organizing. And I'm sure even though my colleagues may have a differing opinion, I love the way that you've presented it to us. So we thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it is a very emotional and personal issue, when being dealt with. So we figured we'd come today with stats and figures and numbers to help see the legitimacy, yes, the legitimacy, but also the fiscal benefits, to that. Thank you.
Representative Robinson, any questions?
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Mr. Clapper from the Manatee County Democratic Party on deck. Ms. Colleen Thayer from NAMI, Sarasota, and Manatee counties. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Gregory, Representative Rayner, and Representative Robinson. We thank you very much for this opportunity to speak and for you to listen. Thank you. My name is Will Clapper, and I am the Communications Director for the Manatee County Democratic Party, and I'm speaking on their behalf. Manatee Democrats believe you, our legislators, have the responsibility to prioritize three core issues in the upcoming sessions. And those issues would be the economy, the environment, and the education. And we've been hearing all day, all morning, that those are the issues that affect most of the residents of Manatee County. First, let me speak briefly about the economy. Manatee County has recorded more than 1,000 deaths linked to COVID. Misguided state policies contributed to these deaths and impacted our economy, resulting in business failures and thousands of jobs lost. It is disappointing that the legislators let this happen. We call on you to fix our broken unemployment system. Residents need affordable housing, as we've heard this morning, to live and work in Manatee County, and we urge you to continue your work assuring affordable housing. Parents need affordable child care, allowing them to work and have good-paying jobs. To ensure a healthy workforce, we call for a public health system based in science, not in politics. We need affordable health care, including reproductive justice health issues. We need a strong, independent, and sufficiently funded higher education system to provide a talented workforce. The bipartisan infrastructure bill signed into law by President Biden will bring billions of dollars to Florida and create jobs. We urge you to ensure a proportionate amount of that money is spent right here in Manatee County. The second E, the environment. A clean, safe, and welcoming environment fuels tourism, which drives our economy. A lack of political will resulted in the Piney Point disaster. We urge you to take swift and significant action to clean up Piney Point, but not harm our coastal and underground waterways in the process. We implore you to make the hard decisions on other environmental issues which plague us: the rising seas, rampant overdevelopment, and recurring red tide issues. Unfortunately, my time is up, but thank you very much for listening, and hope to see you in Tallahassee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Ms. Thayer, and I think that will be the end of our local legislative priorities, but then we have, I think, 17 people signed up for public comment. And if you have public comment and you haven't signed up yet, please notify Ms. Carol Kalinda or Mr. David Ballard.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Last but not least. For the record, I'm Colleen Thayer. I'm the Executive Director of
NAMI serving Sarasota and Manatee counties. It's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Hopefully you all are familiar with that. But we are a grassroots organization focused on helping individuals living with mental illness, their families and caregivers. We offer support and education. So you have information in your packet. I just want to touch on and highlight a couple little things in there. First, the 988, the 3-digit number that is being implemented for behavioral health crises nationwide, that will go live in July of '22, so it's not very far away. I know the carriers are working on that now. Every state is implementing it a little bit differently, but we just wanted to focus you in on the fact that this is coming and that it's really a great way to divert behavioral health calls from the 911 system, free up law enforcement, and respond more adequately when it's a behavioral health emergency. So you'll be hearing more about that. We are working on an informational session. I'll send information to, to all of your staff. But it's December 7th from 12 to 1. It's a Zoom info session on that, so we hope you'll be able to join. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is we're in the second year of a pilot program focused on working with families of young people in the behavioral health system, kind of the ones that are, the kids that are going through Baker Acts, multiple Baker Acts, those kinds of things, working with families to help them actually navigate that system. What we've found is that families don't know what to do, right? You know, so your child goes through that, and then it's like, okay, what's next? We're released from the hospital, and then there's this myriad of services, getting into services, and lots of ancillary issues. So the pilot is working very well. What we'd like to do, and we have a legislative request in, is to expand that. We noticed that it's working, and it's working well, and so needing that for not only the young people in the system, but really anybody within the behavioral health care system, from that support and wrapping around the family is really critical. So more information on that as it moves forward, and we appreciate your support. We're here as a resource for you all, so if you need anything related to mental health, please just let us know, and we'll be happy to get you directed. Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Well, like I said, that concludes the local legislative priority designated speakers. We do have, I think, 17 people signed up for public comment. We would typically reduce the time to 2 minutes by this point in the agenda, but we're doing very well because people are being very respectful of the time. So I'm going to keep it at 3 minutes per speaker. We'll give you that extra time if you need it, and we'll continue to press. So first up now, we have Ruth Beltran, followed by Kim Bernstein.
Good morning, everyone. As we go into the next legislative session, it is important to remember the issues that are truly impacting the lives of people in Manatee County and all throughout Florida. The proposed abortion ban that has been proposed at the Manatee County level, although we do not have any working abortion clinics, and now at the state level, is not something that the people of Manatee County or Florida needs. It's not something that was requested or that people want. Reverend Dave Barham once said, "The unborn are a convenient group of people to advocate for. They never make demands of you. They are morally uncomplicated. Unlike the incarcerated, addicted, the chronically poor, they don't resent your condensation or complain about you when you are not politically correct. Unlike widows, they don't ask you to challenge patriarchy. Unlike orphans, they don't need money, education, or childcare. Unlike migrants, they don't bring any racial, cultural, religious baggage that you dislike. You are allowed to feel good about yourself without any work. It's almost as if, however, everything ceases once they are unborn. It's almost as if by being unborn, they have died to you. You can love the unborn and advocate for them without substantially challenging your own wealth, power, privilege, without imagining social structures, apologizing, or making reparations to anyone. Unlike they are not prisoners, immigrants, sick, the poor, widows, orphans, all the groups that are specifically mentioned in the Bible, get all thrown out under the bus for the unborn. Now, let's speak about those who are living and workers who breathe and are going through hell trying to survive and make ends meet. The real reason why companies cannot find workers is because very few companies are willing to pay a living wage. The shortage in workforce is because we have an abundance of employers who only want to pay poverty wages. In addition to that, working people who breathe and are living are also leaving this area because they cannot find affordable housing. Let me repeat that. Working people cannot find affordable housing in this area. And how is this good for our community or for our state? This incoming legislative session, the people of Manatee County and all of Florida needs you to focus on issues that exist and that impact so many working people. Yes, people who breathe and live. COVID-19 has already demonstrated that workers run the world and that companies are nothing but empty buildings if workers don't show up to work. It is not in the interest of any of us. It is not in the interest of us as a collective for workers to continue to leave this area because they cannot find affordable housing. This incoming legislation, please focus your efforts on enacting affordable housing. Let me repeat that. Working people desperately need affordable housing. No one needs to be spending over 50% of their income in housing. And here in Manatee County, many are spending that, if not more. Solve the housing crisis. Stop developers from building only homes that are super expensive, which we have a lot of right here in Manatee County. The people need starter homes. The people need affordable apartments. We need rent control. We need a statewide ban to evictions. Please go to Tallahassee and advocate for the things that are impacting working people in this area.
Thank you, Ms.
Lastly,
Beltran.
I want to remember that only Texas brought us this ban. Now Floridians ask for this ban or want this ban.
Thank you, Ms. Beltran. We
Thank you.
appreciate your comments.
Happy National Day of Mourning, and any questions that I can answer?
No, thank you very much. Next up is Ms. Kim Bernstein, followed by Mr. Jeffrey Carmen.
I guess it's now good afternoon. I will also be speaking for Sabrina Davis, who is on the agenda, but I will try to do it all within the one time frame. Representatives, thank you very much. Hardworking staff, I know that there are many of you here that are working harder than anyone knows. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Kim. My last name is really irrelevant. I'm a retired attorney. I have never done a malpractice case. In fact, I've never received a fee from a client. Worked for legal aid and for the Public Defender's Office, and I ran a disability clinic. But I'm here today to talk to you about a bill that I think is very important. I received a call from a friend of mine who is a medical examiner and who took care of a loved one of a woman named Sabrina Davis. She's on your calendar today, but she couldn't make it here. I'm going to tell you her story too. I'm here to ask you, I think we all know about this bill. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. I don't want to get into much of the detail because I don't have much time. But I'm here to ask you to expand the categories to where they would have been and where they are in every other state for people who have the privilege of holding medical providers accountable when there is a wrongful death. I know that many times we hear the arguments about how this is a matter of malpractice insurance and the malpractice insurance going up. And I understand the issues, having fought for healthcare insurance for 30 years of my life. But the thing that we need to look at very carefully, because all these people out here know that there's something that they can do, or they think there's something they can do if someone they love dies in a hospital. But most of the people here don't understand that if they are over 25 and their parent dies, or if their parent dies and is single, there's no one that can recover or hold the entity accountable. And the reverse problem, when children of aging parents die, and face it, I have to ask you, how many of your constituents are older, perhaps widowed, divorced? Do you think that they really want these categories to be excluded? I don't think they do. The other thing that I really find is that the argument is we are going to drive malpractice insurance up so high that there won't be room for anything in the state. But we know, especially as attorneys, this isn't like suing a lawyer. You don't like your lawyer, you go to the courthouse, you file a suit. You want to sue a doctor, you got to go through an awful lot of steps to show that it's a valid claim. It's not something that you can just get any attorney and file a frivolous lawsuit. What we're trying to do is make it easier just to make sure that people who have been injured will be able to hold the institution responsible. I think this is really important. It's been called the free kill bill. I'm not a big fan of the name because we know, even the people who are so hurt and so angry, that people do not go to work in the medical industry to kill people. We also know that they are having the worst time of their lives, probably worse than us, during these times. May I continue and speak for Sabrina?
You may. Go ahead.
Thank you. We know that it's a problem. We know that nobody goes to work and says, I'm going to kill someone because they're over 25 and no one can recover if their parents, if they're single. They can't. No one can. And that's just not right. My kids are 18 and 21, and I can promise you they are not adults. And they won't be in the foreseeable future. I spend my entire day driving them, and I couldn't print this because I used up all the ink in my printer. But what we're really trying to do is hold bad actors accountable rather than excluding people like me. I'm single. No one could recover in 3 years if I was killed by somebody who made a huge mistake in the hospital. And I'm not planning on going anywhere soon, but I really don't think this is what we want. And I can tell you the constituents my age in your district are not pleased with this. It's puzzling that we limit these cases not based on merit when we know that in these cases a medical body has to find negligence. And they don't, it's just not right to remove the ability, especially in the times of COVID. I'm going to tell you about Sabrina. One of the things that just really hurt me so much about her case, if she were here to talk to you, she would say, my father was a man who served our country in the service, who was functional. He worked for Terminex, in and out of all sorts of people's houses. You know, the guy who gets rid of your bugs, the guy that we care about, the one that we talk to every week when he comes. He had deep knee pain, and he went into a facility. When he went into the facility, he and his daughter said, he suffers from blood clots. We really need you to take some extra care with him because we know he's medically fragile. Only in the blood clots you need to take ultrasounds, you need to do extra steps. As it went on, 5 days later, they let him out of the ER and put him on the floor. Sabrina said, could I please be there? Can I be there to watch? He was single, had no children under 25. They said no because of COVID. Okay, that happens. COVID, we all have to take care of our medical providers and everyone else. She then got the call that he passed away. The sad part, the part that killed me, was she told me that she called and said, can you tell me what he said? What were his last words? Did he ask about me? Did he ask about Luke? What did he say? She had found out when they gave her his phone back that the phone had her number, you know, the ICE number in case of emergency. They said, because she can't file a suit, you will not get an answer without an attorney. We are not going to let you talk to witnesses. And, you know, we know how that goes. Anyway, I'm going to talk quickly because I'm very concerned that I finish. I want you to remember that people like Sabrina's dad know a lot of people. They're in and out of people's homes. Those people would be horrified and will be horrified when they find out that Sabrina couldn't recover and that there was no accountability. I want to remind you there was a quick story in Jacksonville, and in the story in Jacksonville, there were 150 people who responded and followed an email, and 3 of them showed up at the delegation meeting. 1 out of every 1,000 people. I'm going to just wrap up, if I can have 30 seconds to wrap up. Okay, thank you. I believe this is budget neutral. It may not be. I haven't done my research yet. To be clear, I want to be absolutely clear on what I'm asking you for, because it's very simple. First of all, I'm asking you on behalf of the many who can't be here today, who don't even know that there's a change that they can have, to please make this change. There are 4 bills, and we can get into that later, because I'm also asking you for an appointment for 10 minutes with, I promise you, a constituent from your district to tell you their story and why it's important to them. I'm asking you to urge your colleagues, even if you choose not to vote against it, which I certainly hope you won't, I am asking you to ask them to bring it for a vote. It passed last year in the House, but not in the Senate. I'm asking you to help me talk to Senator Boyd, who I really hoped would be here so that I could ask him for his vote. I'm here to ask you on behalf of hundreds of thousands of Floridians who have lost a family member, a special friend, if we can get accountability. I'm asking you for your vote when this bill comes up, and I'm asking you to use any influence you have to reach the governor, because we'll need him too. I'm very, very grateful for being given the chance to speak today and to ask you for these things. And I'm asking you one last thing. When you sit down at dinner on Thanksgiving and think about your family, think about the younger ones who are struggling to get a job in this economy. Not just a job. My son works at Publix. He can't support himself working at Publix. He can't support himself with a junior college degree, which he's probably going to get. I'm asking you to think about the parents who have lost a child. I'm asking you to just think about them and remember that when this comes up to vote, we're asking you for your vote. And for a time to speak with you ahead of the scheduling, we'll be sending you the scheduling request, and thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you, Ms. Bernstein. We appreciate your comments and appreciate you covering for Ms. Davis, who couldn't be here as well, and covering both of those points on the same bill effectively. So thank you for being here. I'm sure we will see you in Tallahassee when you send our office's requests. Any questions?
No.
No. We have seen the bill before, so thank you.
Answer.
Next up, I've got Ms. Cynthia Compton, followed by Ms. Kimberly Cox. Oh, wait, sorry, let me back up. Is Mr. Carmen here? Haven't seen him. Okay, then I go back to what I said. Ms. Cynthia Compton, and then followed by Ms. Kimberly Cox.
Good morning. A lot of information to take in, so hopefully I can make it easier for you. This morning, I'd like to talk to you about the Florida and the U.S. Constitution that you vow to uphold, not to change, but to uphold. Whether you are a God-fearing person or not, it is indisputable that our founders were and drafted our constitutions that our Florida Constitution must align with on biblical principles and morals, such as thou shalt not steal and thou shalt not kill. This should convict your heart to demand a forensic audit in all 67 counties of Florida, since it is a crime to steal, especially a vote, an inalienable right that no one has authority to steal or alter. And there is much evidence being ignored that this has occurred, demanding forensic audits. Your vow to uphold the Constitution should also convict your heart to permanently deny every permit for abortion clinics and phosphate mining, since thou shalt not kill. A woman absolutely has the right to her body, to protect it from harm, but not to damage it through the act of abortion. At the moment of conception, life begins, and her body involuntarily begins protective and provision changes for the life that has begun within hers. Unnaturally disturbing and ending those changes of a locked cervix or milk-producing glands damages the mother's body. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the dangers that there's new studies coming out that by an abortion and stopping the glands from doing their natural production for preparing to feed this child causes breast cancer. They don't talk about the damage that happens to a woman's body when you go in and disturb a locked cervix that could possibly end her ability to ever have a child again, or other damage to her body. It could cause her to hemorrhage. How many deaths have happened because of an abortion? Because disrupting what naturally takes place in a woman's body. It is so much better to just be responsible about your sex life. And phosphate mining, it is a crime for a person to harm a dog, but phosphate mining is given permission to destroy our aquaculture, seagrass, and other means for survival for land, wildlife, marine life, and human life. Again, the evidence that phosphate mining kills demands that it cease in Florida. All three of these situations and so many more demand the proper use of our Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and also in the Florida Constitution, that we be allowed proper grand juries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have from, let's see, I skipped over somebody here. Is Glenn Gibellina next? Oh, who's on deck? Ms. Cox, sorry. Lost my place for a moment. After Ms. Cox, we've got Glenn Gibellina.
I just want to start by saying that she couldn't have been more wrong about pretty much anything she said. I should be home with my kids on their break, and instead I'm here begging that you not make an accidental pregnancy in my life a death sentence, because that's what it would be. I do everything right. I've been married for 22 years. I'm on birth control. I could still get pregnant. And if I did, I would die. The removal of Roe v. Wade and the removal of our fundamental rights to health care should not be up for discussion. What I do with my body should not be up for discussion. The reasons I may choose to terminate a pregnancy should not be up for discussion. When and where and with whom I should conceive a child with should not be up for discussion. Things you should be discussing include offering a real sex education in schools, not the abstinence kind that Florida offers. Teens who have access to sex ed are half as likely to experience teen pregnancy. These classes have been shown to reduce risky sexual behavior in teens by 1/3. Teenagers should be taught how their bodies work and the measures that they can take to prevent the spread of diseases and unwanted pregnancy. They should not be taught that sex is shameful or that their bodies are shameful. You should be discussing programs that would help single mothers care for their children, things like food and housing assistance, like many people before me have mentioned. Career training programs and job placement programs for parents. Daycare assistance. These programs are not easily accessible. There are a lot of strings attached to them. Using the reasoning that you don't want to create programs that would create a dependency on assistance, to what end are you creating those rules? Who does that really serve? It does not serve the children that you're forcing to be brought into this world, that's for certain. 70% of people who seek abortions do so because of the financial burden and stress of bringing a baby into this world. So many of those people would tell you right now that they would be far more likely to have the baby if their basic needs were met. There's a lot of talk about adoption as an alternative to abortion, but I think we can agree that the foster system is broken, and it definitely needs your attention. So why would this be considered an adoption? Why would adoption be considered an alternative? That I should bring a child into this world as an incubator just to give it to a broken system? No, thank you. I think that it serves my child better to be brought into a system that you guys have put together that actually would be beneficial to them. How can you ask me to make that choice of one or the other? It's not fair. Thanksgiving is a really hard week for me, and I'd really like to finish this, I'm sorry. Thanksgiving is a really hard week for me because I was sexually assaulted 6 years ago. I was inconsolable. I couldn't work. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't focus. I couldn't function. It was longer than 6 weeks it took me to recoup from that. And if you put in a 6-week heartbeat ban, when I couldn't get myself together out of bed, how would I have even known? And you're going to force me to carry that monster's child? You're going to force me to make that decision. So I beg of you to consider the mothers, not as a whole and not as a statistic, but our individual lives. Think of how my life could be made as a punishment for a monster's behavior. I'm going to finish with that because I know my time is up. I'll see you in Tallahassee in January, and I'll see you every single time that this is even a possibility to be on any kind of legislation.
Well, we thank you for sharing that difficult story. As we continue to progress, there are several other speakers signed up to talk about abortion or pro-life issues, and I just remind everyone who's speaking today, it's probably best to avoid commenting on other speakers and what they're advocating for, but everyone's doing a good job making their points, so just make your points and don't comment on anything the other speaker said. it can dangerously raise the temperature of the argument, and we don't want to go there. Mr. Gibolino, welcome this morning.
Thank you. For the record, Glenn Gibolino. Is our overhead working? So, facts are stubborn things. John Adams said that December 4th in 1770 at the Boston Massacre trials that he successfully defended. Affordable housing, there is none. 2021 Florida housing profile. We are short 384,743 affordable rentals and only getting worse in the coming year. Rents have skyrocketed and are out of control. That's the brand new, just came out. If you don't believe us, ask Alice. Alice are all the facts. That's the Bible in our community. I go by it. So we are all struggling. The rents are out of control. Prices are going up. The evictions are starting. Just a myriad of problems. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. There's a updated one from October a few weeks ago about the homeless students in our state and county. Fact that Manatee County has 1,191 verified homeless students. We can probably double that for the folks who opt out of the system, like single moms sleeping in their car for the fear of CPS coming to get them. So, and these numbers run through pre-K to high school. What if your child or your grandchildren are one of these from these schools? Who on earth can get an education under those circumstances? Not one. 51% of the third graders can't read at reading level. This is just part of the reason. Statewide, we have over 60,000 homeless students. I want you to think about the cities like Kissimmee and Sarasota, about 60,000. Every resident in those two cities, think of them as homeless students. That's what the state has, 60,000 homeless students. It's unacceptable. Solutions. Here's what I would proffer on the solutions end of the spectrum. Each and every one of you should go sleep in a car for a week with your kids and see how that works out. You'd be telling, so we keep thinking, well, the school district says it's not our problem. We're not in the housing business. The county says, well, leave it to the free market. They have not worked. So each and every one of you should put yourself in that situation, and then what would you be telling the delegation today and how to fix the problem? If you can do that, we can fix the problem. Until then, govern yourself accordingly. And I'll see you at lobby days. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gibolino. I know the lawyers in the room appreciate your closing line. Next up, we have Ms. Pamela Gordon, followed by Ms. Shannon Keever. Neither one is here? Okay. Is Shannon Keever here? Okay, Shannon. And next up on deck is Christy Lacey. Is Christy here? Welcome, Ms. Keever.
Hello, thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. My name's Shannon Keever. I am a board-certified pediatric nurse here in Manatee County. I've been a resident here for 11 years. I also have background in mother-baby nursing. I'm going to take off my mask right now. I'll try to speak fast because I know there's limited time. The population in Florida, and specifically here in Manatee County, is growing because this is a place where people want to live, work, and play. I love it here. We, your constituents, value freedom. We need to keep it that way. Abortion bans do more harm than good, and in Manatee County, it won't prevent any abortions since we don't have any clinics here. It would only be a performative statement that we don't truly value constitutional rights here, and we're willing to take them away from people if it's something we're uncomfortable with. There are a lot of people who are uncomfortable with the Second Amendment. We don't want to set a precedent that it's okay to revoke rights based on our feelings. The intention of HB 167 and the Manatee County abortion ban proposal both do just that. It would also bring unnecessary and expensive lawsuits to Manatee County that I, as a taxpayer, don't want to pay for. A few people have actually already proposed this, but I wanted to propose working on solutions to the issues that may lead Manatee County residents to seek abortions, because nobody should feel like that is their only choice. I've been just so impressed with all of the speakers today, because they've really been speaking to these issues that do at times lead people to feel like they have no way out but an abortion. And a public family planning program run by the Department of Health that could empower medical freedom by providing quality sex education and birth control options that would undoubtedly prevent abortions. I'd like to work toward providing an insurance program similar to Hillsborough Healthcare, which helps provide insurance to residents who don't qualify for other healthcare coverage. I've just seen this in my practice as a nurse, where that's such a problem for parents with their children. Not just because of their children's costs, but their own healthcare costs too. Affordable housing, affordable healthcare, affordable childcare, those are issues that would go even further in preventing the conditions that may make people feel that their only option is abortion. So I just think these are just issues that whether we agree on pro-life, pro-choice, that these are issues we could really work together on to provide, to make Manatee County a safer, more healthy place for everybody who's living here, and would then also have a really great result that I think we can all agree on, which would prevent abortions. So if we can drop considering these divisive freedom-stealing bans, I'm almost done, we could take that energy and passion toward improving the lives here in Manatee County. Thank you so much for your time, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your families.
Thank you. You too.
I think Christy Lacey.
I believe. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Bursa. I'm going to be taking Christy's spot.
Okay.
This is in reference to medical malpractice litigation. Can I put this here, please? Thank you. What killed Ryan, my 30-year-old brother, was damage to the ET tube, the tube that keeps an intubated person breathing. Upon reading his medical records, this was not the first, not the second, but the third time the ET tube, the most important tube in that hospital room, had been compromised. The worst part is hospital staff did not immediately notice or respond to him not getting oxygen, all this while in the ICU. Since Florida courts have allowed for organized crime to be committed in our healthcare facilities, this is just one example of the numerous negligent acts committed by the hospital staff. According to what is known as Florida Free Kill, a severely harmed patient that survives negligence could be a significant liability, whereas a dead person is not. Let me add that this was an intervention that Ryan refused. He was healthy enough and cognizant enough to refuse. To quote Ryan and what he said to the doctor and nurse, "Why are you threatening me with a ventilator?" The hospital staff disregarded his health sovereignty, pushed sedatives into his IV, and continued to use a medical intervention that has an 86% chance of death. The average hospital bill for a 28-day stay on a ventilator is over $900,000. So when the hospital lobbyists, doctor lobbyists, and medical malpractice lobbyists stand in front of you and say that allowing lawsuits over deadly negligent behaviors for those adults that are both unmarried and without children will raise insurance premiums, remember that the hospital got paid close to $1 million to kill my brother. I'm not just standing in front of you with a heavy grieving heart advocating for Ryan. I have two more brothers that fall into this free kill category. One of them is a firefighter. He puts his life on the line to save others, and currently in Florida, he is being punished for focusing on this admirable career since he is not married and does not have children. I put my trust in all of you to vote in favor of HB 6011, 6039, and SB 262 and 560 to end this discriminatory and unconstitutional behavior towards tax-paying, law-abiding citizens. Also, this bill was heard in the House last year. It had overwhelming support and passed. It was not allowed to be heard in the Senate by the Senate President. The Florida Chamber of Commerce sent an email threatening to dock legislators points if they voted in favor of this bill. So we will be in Tallahassee advocating for these bills to be heard and passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ms. Sarah Parker, followed by Mr. James Pesnichek. Welcome, Ms. Parker.
Hello. Hi, my name is Sarah Parker. I am with Women's Voices of Southwest Florida, among a lot of other activist groups within Sarasota and Manatee County. I want to first start off with saying this. I've never seen such calm, professional people sit at this dais for the most part, and that's saying a lot. We've had a lot of issues since we've come here, between bickerments and the civility clause that's not even followed by some of our commissioners. We really do appreciate that, no matter what letters behind your name. Honestly, two of you gained respect for me at this moment in time that I didn't think I was going to have when I came in here. With that said, I want to talk about, the abortion ban, but I also want to talk about ethical violations and leadership training. I believe that as state representatives, you guys should be holding Manatee County accountable. I believe that they are in need of leadership training. You're going to hear that from not only me or my group, you're going to hear that from people that we don't even agree with. For instance, there should definitely be oversight. Attorney General Ashley Moody was sent a letter, and on that letter stated that there was a grant for expectant mothers. As someone that plans to be a future law student, I went and studied Attorney General Ashley Moody's website, and I saw a Florida statute on there that says that if you write an official statement in writing and you send it to a public official, that is perjury. We asked, and even in the meeting packet, if you read the packet, one of our commissioners stated there is no grant. We asked several commissioners where the grant is, how do we find the grant? No one was able to tell us. We called the 311 system. Again, no one was able to tell us. We have been fighting this since June. That is an issue. The fact that we were disregarded when we brought this up several times is a problem. Again, we do need affordable housing. We need comprehensive sex education, but we also need our Board of County Commissioners to be held accountable for situations such as this. Furthermore, I would like to say that we have done research, and I know that at least one of you sit on a board that the HB bill is going to go across. And we want to make this very clear, that the moment that you trip away at our rights, your rights will then be chipped away at. And that goes to the Second Amendment right. The Second Amendment right, there's someone that came down, that we actually had come down, because again, we are a nonpartisan group. We had the LP VP from last year's election come down and speak at the Manatee County Board of Commissioners, and he made a very clear statement that as soon as you do that, you can expect your guns to be after. You can expect anything else on the Constitution to be chipped away. Also, to go any further, with the idea of abortion and the idea of God in abortion, yes, our founding fathers were mostly Christian. We cannot deny that. That is 100% true. But there was something that they put into that not only our founding fathers, but other people put into it, and as far as a principle goes, and that is the Establishment Clause. The Establishment Clause that keeps everyone in the United States safe and allows them to practice within limits of their religion. That being said, when you make a decision, and this does come before you, which it will become before one of you, please make sure that you make a clear decision and make sure that it's an educated decision, and make sure that it's not a violation of the Establishment Clause. And as well, again, one of you guys were name dropped by Commissioner Satcher saying that you were pro a $10,000 deputization. If you deputize citizens with one thing, other people will use that same precedent to deputize other citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Good luck in law school. Next up, Mr. Pesnichek, and on deck, Mr. Riley.
Are we going to change the, yeah.
Ms. Kalinda, can you turn off this camera? Okay, thank you. Perfect, thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, representatives. Gregory, Robinson, and Rayner. I say that with special reverence only because my background has led me to live for 4 years in Beijing, China. And to be able to sit here and look at everyone out here and talk the way they're talking and talk the way I plan on talking is something is very precious to us. Believe me, it's precious to us. Don't take it for granted. Living in PRC, I was able to, with 150 local Chinese working for me and 7 expats, do some things that were very unique. Then again, I've got also 8 years of Washington, D.C. under my belt, too. So I've got looking at a lot of different capitals. And I want to tell you that I was born and brought up in Albany, New York. But here we are, 2 years later, and we find ourselves in a very bad place, though. We're faced with a socialist, globalist, and Alzheimer fatigued czar in which we're being asked to shed our citizenship while we're being demoted to subjects of the Beltway. I mentioned before, I know with Tommy, that some Perot-isms, that I also worked for Ross Perot for a number of years, and he was the one who sent me to China also. A Perot-ism that rings louder every day in my ears is when Ross was asked, what type of people does he have working for EDS and what makes him so successful? He said, we categorize our employees into 3 types: solid exceeds, solid meets, and new to the job. He was then asked, what do you do with the underperforming or bad employees? He said, we have no bad or underperforming employees. We either fix them or we fire them. We never transfer them. He had a whole routine for doing that. You take bad employees and you can fix them because they're probably in the wrong place at the right time or the right place at the wrong time, or they're just not fit for that particular job. I submit that we have a similar problem with this nihilistic administration that is underperforming. Socialist bad actors that need to be removed. Elections, if altered, are not the solution. If altered is a magic word. Our last administration brought us 7.7% unemployment, and brought us up to, went from 0.7 to 2.7% in 2 years, which should have received him a Nobel Prize for economics. Obviously, that didn't happen. What this train wreck really has brought us is open borders, out of control inflation, oil dependency, a deliberately divided country. And I believe that our justice system is not behaving according to what they need to be doing. The major issues that are not being addressed are things like the Crossfire Hurricane, by which our Justice Department was not addressing that particular issue appropriately. Bogus investigations, Mueller investigations, as well as impeachments, quid pro quos, Hunter Biden Ukraine job, Hunter Biden's laptop, and many more. Sorry I ran over time.
Thank you, Mr. Besenjack.
These are the type of things that I believe the Justice Department has not addressed and needs to be fixed. Or as Perot says, fixed. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Next up, we have Mr. David Riley, and on deck, Miss Belinda Ritchie. Mr. Riley here? Okay. Miss Belinda Ritchie, is she here? Yes. On deck, Miss Sandra Sperry.
Belinda Ritchie for the record. Thank you all for coming and sitting on our dais today. I just want to speak about the group. I met this lovely group of women at the Women's Day March. I had no knowledge about the proposed seeking of an abortion ban in Manatee County until I met them, the Women's Day March. We're here because we're mad. We're here because, and I don't see anybody here, but because our board who sits here decided that they wanted to create a version or seek a version of the Texas abortion ban that actually is a snitch ordinance where people can put a bounty on somebody for a minimum of $10,000. It just sounds outrageous. And as one of my colleagues spoke, Vice Presidential candidate Spike Cohen came and spoke to this board and addressed them about how once you step on abortion, that they're going to step on your gun rights. So this proposal to outlaw abortion in Manatee County, where there are no facilities, locks the commission and the citizens in a recurring cycle of divisive debate and discussion at every meeting. It can only end when this proposal is withdrawn or the motion to no longer pursue is passed. And I encourage this legislation to meet with our board or discuss this and encourage them to put it in the trash where it belongs. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Next up, Ms. Sandra Sperry. On deck, Mr. Jack Wallace. Is Ms. Sperry here? Okay. How about Mr. Jack Wallace? How about Mr. Michael Zarzano?
That's Jack
Oh, that
Wallace.
is you. Sorry. Come on up. Mr. Jack Wallace is making his way. Next up will be Michael Zarzano.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jack Wallace. I'm a socialist and a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And of course, one of the things that we really care about as being socialists is abortions and, affordable housing, right? Of course, we've had lots of good speakers about the issue of abortion here in Manatee County, so I'll leave that there. I do want to speak about, housing a little bit more, right? People want to be able to live in this community, right? This is Manatee County. It's a nice place to live. There's nice beaches. We have our barrier islands, it's a nice place to live. Unfortunately, working people and people who, work everyday jobs, they can't afford to live here. How could they when rents are rising so high that, they go up to maybe even 50% of what their income is, right? What their monthly paychecks are, right? I know I've been working a job here, doing organizing work, and I had to pay up to 46% of my income per month on, very short-term housing, right? How could anyone really be expected to get by when you have to pay so much money for anything else, right? How can working people afford to do anything besides just scrape by to try to barely even live? And unfortunately, one of the things that the state of Florida does is that it preempts rent control at the municipal and county, city and county level. And this is something that I believe should be reversed, right? I think that counties and city municipalities should be able to decide whether they want rent control in their municipality based off of being elected officials, right? If this is something that you all believe in local government deciding things, then this should be something that a local government should be able to decide, in my view. We need rent control now. There's people being evicted. Of course, because of this pandemic, people are dying. Evictions are violence, unfortunately. And when, you operate housing as a for-profit industry, that means that some people are going to be priced out. That means a lot of people are going to be priced out. And it's going to be harder for working class people to get by. And unfortunately, the leeches that own property and offer housing are just basically distributing wealth from working people to the richest members of our society. And that's no different here in Manatee County. We need a statewide reinstatement of statewide eviction ban, in my view. We need to be able to erect rent control at a local level. Unfortunately, that's preempted by the state, which would be where you all come in, as well as, actual funding for affordable housing and not just, more subsidies to developers, basically. It needs to be run by the people for the people, and unfortunately, that's not what we have in Manatee County right now. Thank you very much. I'll conclude my statement there.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Michael Zarzano, and then I got another request from a Mr. David Karathis is on deck.
Thank you.
Good morning, representatives. My name is Michael Zarzano from Charlotte County. However, I do pay taxes in Manatee County, and I would like to represent our voice here, the county Congress. Keep in mind, your political power is only just when it is derived by the consent of the governed.
Thank you.
And I'm here to speak to you about two issues. First is phosphate mining. Phosphate mining in Florida defies logic and violates your fiduciary duty to we the people. It was spoken of earlier that red tide mitigation by the Mote Marine Laboratory is happening, and I must say that is a bad joke. It is not happening. Actually, the results of phosphate and red tide are increasing. Proof of that is the fact that over 1,000 manatees have died this year alone, now surpassing all other records. While at the same time, the Mosaic Company is selling record amounts of product to the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, the butchers of Beijing. Remember them when they slaughtered all their own people for simply wanting to speak and have free speech? Both Democratic and Republican citizens agree on this issue. There is widespread support to call for a ban on phosphate mining in the state of Florida. That is what I am calling for today, a constitutional amendment to stop phosphate mining. It's not what these water watchdogs say that is so important. It's what they don't say is what is important. And what they fail to say and include in the discussion is the fact that 1 million acres, 1 million acres is being used to mine phosphate, very close and adjacent to the area in the river, the Indian River Lagoon, where all these manatees are dying because they're starving due to the killing of the seagrass, which is their diet. The phosphate and the red tide and the nutrient loading in the water due to the phosphate mining is clouding the water, preventing the sunshine from growing the seagrass. You got to keep in mind that Florida has a very shallow aquifer. The water level in this area of the Bone Valley is very shallow. It does not take very much digging and you will hit water. Keep in mind that these shovels that dig and mine the phosphate, which is strip mining, are the size of a school bus. And when you dig down 40, 50, 60 feet, you are ripping into underground rivers and streams that will carry that water to places unknown. Extremely rich nutrient water, which will exacerbate the pre-existing red tide. We are destroying and sacrificing our precious, spectacular, world-renowned environment of Florida at the expense of the Chinese Communist Party, so we can feed their soldiers. Now let me briefly talk about election fraud, and I would ask for an
Zarzano,
extension, as you've granted to many others.
Yes, I was going to say,
Fair play.
you will get fair play. Can you wrap it up in about 30 seconds?
I will try.
Thank you.
Others went far exceeding that amount of time,
You
so
may
I
continue,
hope you
sir.
would be fair.
You may continue.
Election fraud. The criminal evidence is mounting. Keep in mind, we are a Republican form of government. That's what the Constitution says, not a mobocracy. We are a Republican form of government. We are governed by law. And when an election was compromised, as the evidence is now showing, specifically in the Manatee County area of Florida, there's an organization of investigators, citizen investigators called Defend Florida, that have now found over that have provided over 700 affidavits of testimony, lawful affidavits of criminal election activity. Volumes of criminal activity. This is a massive conspiracy, not a theory. These are facts. Our courts are full of conspiracies every day all across America, and this is no different. This was a conspiracy of fraud to steal an election, and the evidence is clear and convincing. We have submitted petitions to federal court demanding a grand jury. We have been denied by their silence at the federal level in 8 different states. We have petitioned the sheriff of Manatee County on video camera to convene a grand jury to examine the evidence that has been found of this election crime. And finally, concerning abortion, there are 2 bodies we're talking about. When you engage in behavior that produces a second body, then there is another person involved, and you must respect that right. We are a nation that lives under God, and this issue was not an issue for hundreds of years until the modern liberal culture made their voice heard and known. But that doesn't change the fact that there are 2 bodies, not one. And when you kill a pregnant woman, whether it's vehicular homicide or murder, you get charged with 2 murders. Case closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zarzano. I believe the last speaker we have, Mr. David Carathas. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
I'd like to remind everybody here in this audience and on the stand here that you take an oath to uphold the Constitution, nothing but the Constitution. Now, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is guaranteed to every citizen, period. Now, when you make decisions to take taxpayer money and give it to people that didn't earn the taxpayer money, that's called socialism. That's a violation of the rights of the taxpayer. So you're violating rights of taxpayer by giving money to organizations or any person without them working for it. Okay, I have a folder here. You can like to read this after I finish my speech. What's happening today is medical fraud on a grand scale. We're talking graphene oxide being put in a vaccine into millions of people. Graphene oxide is a known poison. Okay, now, in the Nuremberg Code 76 years ago, this month in the United States, in the Nuremberg Code, number 5, no experiment should be conducted where there is a prior reason to believe that death is or disabling injury will occur, period. That's number 5. Number 6, the degree of risk to be taken should be never exceeded that determine that the humanitarian importance of the problem to be solved by the experiment. Now, this is happening where there's been over 45,000 Americans directly killed from the vaccine, from the vaccination. 800,000 Americans hurt or injured. Now, it's common knowledge that these have happened already. In the medical profession, the doctors, the nurses, the government, the governors, all are continuing to propagate the idea that this vaccine has a positive result. When there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law, they're committing not only medical negligence by continuing propagating the vaccine, they're committing medical fraud by propagating an idea that has no substance in reality. The pharmaceutical companies are committing a war crime based upon the Nuremberg Code number 5. There are known people that have died directly from the vaccination, and it's not stopped. You have a conscience. You stand before that flag and stand before God someday. When you make a decision to permit something to continue, when you know there's a problem or a negative result, you at that moment commit a war crime. That punishment in 1945 was the death penalty. People that committed war crimes based upon medical experiments on Jewish people were executed. Today, medical professions throughout the United States, including Manatee County, are committing a war crime. So I pray you look into this paperwork, begin a grand jury, and investigate thoroughly both the pharmaceutical companies, the medical doctors, and any congressman or representative who has taken money from these companies, because it's called, lobbying interests. 90% of Congress is taking money from pharma companies, yet Americans are dying directly as a result of their product, and no one's held accountable. What you're doing, if you take money, it's called bribery. And if you consent to something that is illegal, that is called a war crime. And that should stop as soon as possible. So begin a grand jury investigation, look at the evidence, and stop with an injunction today throughout the United States that medical fraud needs to stop. Graphene oxide is a known poison that should not be permitted to be given to any person in the United States. That's all today. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. Did we receive another one? Okay, this will be the final speaker, and then we'll have closing comments from each of the members of the delegation, if they would so choose to do so. Last speaker, Ms. Nicole Woods.
Hi, thank you. I know you presented me as Nicole Woods. I'm a 35-year Manatee County resident, 15 years as a nurse, and I thought I'd present some facts that were not mentioned in some other previous comments. I've worked for 15 years in labor and delivery and women's health, and I wanted to present, I don't have any statistics because I wasn't prepared to speak today, but I felt led. About maternal morbidity and mortality. The instances of death and mortality and hemorrhage are actually increased by carrying a pregnancy, especially to full term. There are other complications such as infection, blood clots, diabetes, hypertension, to name a few. Taking away the choice to be able to make that decision for yourself, whether or not that's a risk that you want to take on for yourself or your family, I believe is harmful to women, all women. I also want to briefly speak on the use of abortifacient medications. There are several indications other than medically necessary procedures for these medications, not just abortion. So, for example, misopropyl is actually used after a miscarriage to help with hemorrhaging. Actually prevents complications afterwards, and also after delivery. So limiting the use of those medications can actually bring more harm to women. Another common medication used is methotrexate, and methotrexate can actually be used during a pregnancy that is grown outside of the uterus, also known as ectopic pregnancy, which is lethal, can also cause cancer, death, hemorrhage, infection in women. So again, limiting the access to those medications really only causes more harm and more death. Lastly, the other misinformation that I wanted to correct was about the female anatomy and the cervix, and the other, I forget the terminology that was used, but the artificial opening of the cervix. The cervix leads to the uterus, and not just fetuses grow inside the uterus. Sometimes there's, like I said, not fully developed fetus, tumors, other things of that nature. So utilizing a procedure such as a DNC not only is a life-saving procedure, but should not be limited to just certain circumstances. That should be at the choice of the woman and her provider, and again, what her risk factors are, and being able to make that choice and not limiting our decisions. So that's it. Thank you.
Ms. Woods, thank you for your presentation. I'd like to see if the delegation members have any closing remarks. Start with Representative Rayner.
Well, thank you. First, I just want to thank everyone for coming and using their voice and speaking their truth. I want to thank folks for being respectful as well of differing opinions. This is what makes our country great, that we're able to have differing opinions. We're able to share those opinions, and that we are, your elected representatives, are able to listen and take those things into consideration. I do hope that you have a wonderful holiday with your families. For those who may be missing someone at the dinner table, as I will be, and I know Representative Robinson as well, we send love to y'all, and have a wonderful holiday. That's all I have.
Thank you. Vice Chair Robinson?
I want to echo the comments of Representative Rayner, and I think today is a perfect example of what separates the Florida House from some other bodies, is we're able to listen. And today was about listening, not us talking or debating, but hearing what your concerns are, hearing what the priorities of the community are, and then taking those to Tallahassee. And while Representative Rayner and I may not agree on every issue, I have a great deal of respect for you, and as a friend and as a colleague, and we will miss you in the delegation. I mean, we went to vaccine clinics together, and Piney Point issues together, and we did a lot of work together as a great team, and you will be missed in the Manatee delegation. So best of luck to you in your future, and thank you, Chair, for running a great meeting and 3 hours. You got people were very efficient with their comments, and we heard you loud and clear. Very wide variety of perspectives, which is great, and frankly, what makes our country and our state great. And then finally, thanks to Manatee County government for allowing us this great room. It's nice to be back in chambers as opposed to the Civic Center, even though that was nice last time. It's nice to be back here formally where we can see your faces a bit better. And finally, have a happy Thanksgiving to all of your families. And certainly, you guys probably won't be strangers. You know where to find us. You know how to call us. Please do that. I welcome all opinions at my office. So look forward to anything you have to say. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank both of you for your leadership and service on the delegation. It is a pleasure working with both of you. It really could have been a tough meeting, and it's always a little bit difficult to hear opposing views, right, no matter where you stand on a position. And I, too, commend each of the speakers today and each of the members of the audience as you listen to those opposing viewpoints. Sometimes that's tough to hear, and I will tell you that I, along with my colleagues, we were all taking notes, right? Whether we were agreeing with you or disagreeing with you, we were taking notes, and like Representative Robinson said, we will take those thoughts back to Tallahassee with us. I appreciate you giving the shout out to Manatee County. Thank you so much, Manatee County Commissioners and the county staff who made this possible. I have to give a special shout out to my legislative aide, David Ballard, and District Aide, Carol Kalinda, and our great intern, Gary Rudderman, who I think is sitting back there. Thank you, you three, for doing all the work behind the scenes. It takes a real big team effort to pull this off. So I appreciate all of you. I want to give a special thank you to the men and women in uniform that were here today and are always here, keeping the community safe. Thank you for your dedication and your service to this community. We send our thoughts as a delegation to Senator Boyd. We hope he's doing well, and we hope that all of you enjoy a happy Thanksgiving. I want to reference a quote from the proclamation from President Lincoln, the Thanksgiving Proclamation, so 160 years ago, plus or minus. And the quote says, "The greatest gifts of the Most High God should be solemnly, reverently, and gratefully acknowledged as with one heart and voice by the whole American people." And I'll just share with you a thought that I'm going to try to take with me this Thanksgiving from my priest this weekend. And he said, try to remember that around the Thanksgiving table this year that you are giving thanks. You're not trying to convince your mother, father, brother, sister, or grandparent that they are right or that you are right and they are wrong. It's not a day for political division, but a day of Thanksgiving and unity. So with that, we appreciate you all being here. We wish you happy Thanksgiving, and the meeting is adjourned.
right?
Yeah, amen.
Well, first of all, I would have grown a hell of a lot taller.
I don't think you have a
Hey, that's a good comment.
You know what? I might be taller too if I had.
You no longer be fun set.
Oh, so we'll put.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, let's be serious.
Yeah, Bill would tell us to be serious. Trappings of the office.
I didn't think this was going to be that controversial.
I'm waiting. Yeah, 1:30 times certain.
Sounds good.
So starting with the last one.
Land use.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the land use meeting of November the 18th, 2021. I'm going to go ahead and go to the invocation, which is by Suzanne Boyd of the City Matters Ministry, followed by our own Commissioner Bellamy with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity to pray to open this meeting today. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, King of glory, we welcome your presence into our county and into this meeting today. We acknowledge that you are God alone and a very present God who intervenes in the affairs of man in our city, our state, our nation. We come before you today asking for your help and your divine intervention in the governance of our county, where you have planted us, where we live, work, and play. We join together in agreement, both the civil and the religious sectors, both the governmental and the people of faith, to pray for the peace and prosperity and protection of Manatee County and its people. I thank you for each one of these public servants who sits in these seats. May every decision, every proclamation, every vote that comes forth from this governmental seat be right and pleasing to you, that your blessing and glory may rest upon this county. For each one of these commissioners, I pray. Father, you know them each by name. I pray that you would strengthen them, sustain them, protect them. May you bless them with excellent health, wholeness, and life. Grant them wisdom for every decision they make, for the good and welfare of all. Grant them solutions and divine insight, knowledge, and understanding for complex issues. In a world filled with confusion and darkness, grant them clarity and light. In a world filled with fear, grant them great courage to rule and govern well. In a world filled with anger and hate, fill their hearts with a genuine love and compassion for all the people of Manatee County, from the least to the greatest. Empower them by your Spirit to become more and to do more than they ever could in their own strength or wisdom. Your kingdom is righteousness, peace, and joy. May your kingdom come into this meeting today to affect and change the very atmosphere of Manatee County. May our county be full of glad and praising people, flourishing, fruitful, and filled with hope for their future. It is in the authority of the name of Jesus Christ, the highest name, that I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lisa, are there any updates to the agenda?
Hello? 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 Sorry. Hello? Hello? It says it's on.
I hope that's not.
Hello?
No, it's not on.
It's on, but just speak louder.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
I can yell.
No, it's
It's
not
just
on.
not working.
It's not on.
Chris? or Carl?
Chris, somebody?
Car-
Bill? Okay.
Working on it.
Chris is working on it.
Neither. Nope.